Minister.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us on AIMA 65th Foundation Day, which is also being celebrated as the 15th National Management Day. The theme for the day is Transformation for Continuity, and we are privileged to have with us a very distinguished lineup of dignitaries and speakers with us today. We would like to thank our sponsors who have supported the program. We thank our co-sponsors, CavinKare and Usha International, associate sponsors, Thijo Engineering and Bombay Stock Exchange, Committee of Hosts, Genco Group of Companies, Pattern and Nico Industries. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now start the program with a short film on the AIMA Foundation Day and its journey through the years. The film, please. Thank you. We will begin the session shortly. We are just waiting for the minister to join us. Gentlemen, we are starting with the opening session of AIMA 65th Foundation Day and 15th National Management Day. May I request you all to welcome our eminent panel on the digital dais with a huge round of applause, please. May I request Ms. Rekha Sethi, Director General AIMA, to deliver the introductory remarks.
Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, Honorable Minister of Corporate Affairs and Finance, Government of India. Mr. Uday Kotak, Managing Director and CEO, Kotak Mahindra Bank. Mr. Pati Singhania, President AIMA and Vice Chairman and Managing Director, JK Papers Limited. Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, Senior Vice President AIMA and Chairman and Managing Director, CavinKare. Our award winners for today, Mr. Sanjiv, Mehta, Mr. Azim, Premji and Dr. Randeep, Guleria. Members of AIMA Council, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to have you with us today and a very warm welcome to everyone joining us for celebrating AIMA's 65th Foundation Day, which is also being celebrated around the country as the National Management Day. Honorable Minister, it is a privilege to have you with us on this occasion and many thanks for agreeing to address AIMA's management fraternity. You are an outstanding leader and an inspiration to all women who want to participate in politics, policy making, and governance of the country. You are the first woman finance minister of the country, having been only the second woman defense minister in the previous term of the NDA government. You have charted a new course with your budgets and introduced economic and fiscal measures to rebuild Indian economy at a time of great challenge and change. It's an honor to have you with us today. Mr. Kotak, many thanks for joining us on a special day and for agreeing to deliver the keynote address. AIMA has been privileged to celebrate your achievements in the past by awarding you the AIMA JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award and also the Managing India Award for Transformational Business Leader of the Year. An inspiring entrepreneur and an innovative banker, you've set a great example for aspiring young Indians. It's a pleasure to have you on the AIMA platform. Mr. Singhania, your leadership of AIMA has been vital in keeping AIMA going during this trying period. Your support and guidance have helped AIMA transform itself for continuity, and under your leadership, AIMA has also adapted its mandate according to the need of the time. Mr. Ranganathan, it is a pleasure to have you with us. We are grateful to your contribution to AIMA's resilience during the pandemic, and we count on your advice and counsel as we navigate the prevailing uncertainty. We are honored and delighted to have our award winners with us, Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, Mr. Azim Premji, and Dr. Randeep Guleria. You do us proud by joining us on this platform today, and we look forward to hearing much more from you during the sessions which follow. I'm also pleased to have so many past presidents of AIMA and members of the AIMA Council with us today. A very warm welcome to you all. It is only because of your vision, commitment, initiative, and diligence through the years that AIMA has been able to fulfill its mandate of building management capability in the country. I'm delighted that a large number of local management associations across the country have joined us this morning in celebrating AIMA's Foundation Day and also the National Management Day. The LMAs play a critical role in taking latest management ideas and practices to every corner of the country, and I take this opportunity to thank the leadership of the LMAs for their amazing contribution to the national movement. As always, AIMA is celebrating its Foundation Day by having a dialogue on the most pressing leadership issues of the day and honoring outstanding achievers in the area of business and public service management. The theme of today's discussion is Transformation for Continuity, which is also AIMA's theme for the year and indeed a major need of the time. Since the last Foundation Day, which was held physically, the world has changed dramatically and completely new concerns and opportunities have appeared on the scene. We will hear more on this subject from our eminent speakers during the program today. Again, a warm welcome to all our esteemed speakers, award winners and guests who have joined us. And with these words, it is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Pati Singhania, President AIMA, to deliver the welcome address. Thank you.
Thank you, Rekha. Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, Honorable Finance Minister, Government of India. Sri Uday Kotak, Managing Director, CEO, Kotak Mahindra Bank. Sri C.K. Ranganathan, Senior Vice President, AIMA. Distinguished award winners, Rekha, past presidents and council members of AIMA, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you with us today on the occasion of the 65th Foundation Day of the All India Management Association. AIMA's Foundation Day is also celebrated all over the country by AIMA's 68 local management associations as the National Management Day. We welcome everyone today. Honorable Minister, we are delighted to welcome you to AIMA for the first time. I am particularly grateful, ma'am, as you have gone out of your way. I know you had pressing engagements today, but you were very kind enough to make time to be here with us. It's a privilege to have you, and once again, a very warm welcome on behalf of AIMA. Ma'am, you are managing perhaps the most important portfolio in the government, and you have provided outstanding leadership during a period of unprecedented economic crisis. To Uday Kotak and my dear friend, thank you for readily agreeing to join us in celebrating AIMA's Foundation Day. You are one of India's most storied entrepreneurs, and you are an inspiration to aspiring business leaders. In a short time, you have built one of the finest private banks in India, which is among the top 4 in the country. And in your capacity as President CII, you have also been actively articulating views of business and industry to the policymakers. Mr. Ranganathan, wonderful to have you with us. You are a great colleague, and your guidance has been invaluable in steering AIMA in these very difficult times. I'm also delighted to see many past presidents of AIMA and members of the council, leaders from LMA, and of course, the distinguished award winners who are here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, the Foundation Day of AIMA is being celebrated during unprecedented times. Never before in AIMA's 65-year-old history has Indian management been tested like this. AIMA has come through mostly unscathed, fortunately, and has reached out to Indian managers to help them survive and thrive during this crisis. We could have asked for no better chief guest than the Honorable Finance Minister to further inspire us. She has been at the forefront of the battle to reclaim economic growth from the COVID crisis. Has provided a massive relief stimulus package to ensure that businesses and jobs survive and grow, even if government has to bear a large burden and a prolonged fiscal deficit. She has been creative in balancing the demands of economic recovery and welfare, has tried to minimize the pain to the citizens while strengthening the government's capacity to spend to revive growth. In the budget, ma'am, you have clearly prioritized capacity over consumption, with strong incentives for manufacturing and digitalization. The intent of the government seems to be to build a new economy, and I am confident that the government, the industry, and all citizens will pull together in the same direction to make this vision a reality. Honorable Minister, the management fraternity not only appreciates, but lauds your courage and foresight in helping pull India out of this very difficult. The government is leading the transformation of the Indian economy through important economic and technology reforms. The reforms for market-determined agriculture and labor and incentives for domestic production will have far-reaching impact. The necessary use of digital technologies for doing business with the government and for availing public services is driving a technological transformation of the country. There is a clear nudge towards Atmanirbharta, which has also been prioritized in your budget. However, a technological transformation has to be accompanied with a management transformation. Instead of trying to achieve competitive advantage by simply lowering the cost of people, business leaders have to ensure that use of digital technologies leads to better incomes and jobs. After all, people with incomes are the consumers and demand drivers. Investing in retraining of the workforce has to go hand in hand with digitalization. Climate change mitigation is also becoming a major priority across the world, and business leaders need to ensure that they are not caught on the wrong side of consumer sentiments and government relations. It is important for all of us not to waste this crisis, and it is opportune for business leaders to transform their enterprises. Ultimately, continuity is a function of breaking the past. With these words, I once again welcome you all to AIMA's 65th Foundation Day. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on this occasion, we also present the AIMA Awards of Excellence to distinguished professionals for their outstanding contributions. We begin with the presentation of the AIMA Dr. Tarneja Award for Best Article in Indian Management. Let us watch a short video to introduce the winner of this year's award, please. A distinguished marketing and advertising expert, he is a leading brand consultant and marketing pundit. After a stellar career in companies and advertising agencies, he has founded brandbuilding.com, a brand strategy advisory. He is a popular speaker and serves as an independent director on the boards of 5 companies. He also mentors startups. He is a guest faculty at IIM Calcutta and Ahmedabad, MICA, and an adjunct professor of marketing at SPJI MR. He has worked with path-breaking companies and leading advertising agencies. He spent 25 years with FCB Ulka and helped build it into a top 5 advertising agency. A prolific author, he has written 10 bestsellers on marketing and advertising. He contributed an outstanding article to AIMA's journal, Indian Management, which provided practical insights into the change in consumer behavior during and after COVID, which got a lot of appreciation from readers. All India Management Association is pleased to present the AIMA Dr. Tarneja Award for Best Article in Indian Management to Mr. Ambi Parameswaran for his article Pattern for the Future, which appeared in the December 2020 issue of Indian Management. May I now request Mr. Ambi Parameswaran to say a few words.
I am delighted to be accepting the Dr. Tarneja Award for the Best article published in the year 2020 in the All India Management Association Journal, brought out in association with Spenta Multimedia. My article on post-COVID consumers, titled Pattern for the Future, was written based on the research I had done with Professor Sridhar Samu of Great Lakes, so special thanks to him as well. So let me conclude by thanking once again AIMA, the jury members, and the Mohan Devi Tarneja Memorial Trust for conferring the Dr. Tarneja Award on the work I had done. So thank you very much and have a great year ahead.
Congratulations, Mr. Ambi Parameswaran. The next award of the day is the AIMA Dr. J.S. Juneja Award for Creativity and Innovation in Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. May I request Dr. J.S. Juneja, past President AIMA, to introduce the award and announce this year's winner.
It is my honor to introduce AIMA Dr. J.S. Juneja Award for Creativity and Innovation. AIMA recognizes innovation and it does recognize the spirit of MSMEs for creativity innovation and hence instituted this award, which means any changes or creativity or innovation in the area of marketing, in the area of organization, or new product, new process, new design. This has been instituted for the last 18 years and is judged by a high-powered jury, which is currently being chaired by no other person than the CVC, former CVC, Mr. Preetha. And I would like to tell you, before I conclude, that the winner for this year is Captain Tractors, who manufactures small tractors from Rajkot, which befits very well with the small land holdings. And in addition, we have 2 runners-up, namely the Equinox and Synergy. I thank you.
A grassroots innovator, Captain Tractors epitomizes the spirit of frugal innovation. Founded by brothers with modest education but a strong bond with farming, the company has gone from developing simpler agricultural machines to world-class mini tractors and other farming equipment.
Captain Tractors has developed 7 generations of fully indigenous mini tractors, and it continues to innovate to improve its product and make life easier for farmers. The company has achieved higher sophistication of design and technology with each generation of its products and is serving the product in 14 states of India. This indigenous technology is also exported to more than 50 countries. A small but efficient company, Captain Tractors has reached a turnover of almost rupees 100 crore and has won several national and state awards for entrepreneurship, innovation, production processes, as well as quality and environment measures. All India Management Association is pleased to present the AIMA Dr. J.S. Juneja Award for Creativity and Innovation for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises to Captain Tractors through its director, Mr. Kailesh Movilia. May I now request Mr. Movilia to say a few words.
Captain Tractors family is delighted to receive Dr. J.S. Juneja Award of the present year. We are very thankful to Sri Nirmala Sitharaman ji, who representing this award to Captain Tractors. We are also grateful to the entire team of All India Management Association for giving us this glorious opportunity. It is our pleasure to be honored with such a great title. Because of this, we could show our product to the nation. We are working for farmers since 1994. We are continuously innovating our product from 1984 till date, and so that the farmers can get the maximum benefit of our innovation, and they can easily farm mechanize their through our products. We have a 40 types of tractors model and more than 100 types of implements range, which is very beneficial to the farmers. And we are giving the 360-degree solution to the farmers. Thank you.
Heartiest congratulations to Captain Tractors. We now come to the next award, which is the AIMA Public Service Excellence Award. This award, instituted in 1998, is bestowed in honor of the recipient's commitment to nationally important issues, social responsibility, and environmental preservation. It is a celebration of the individual's philosophy, moral values, ethics, integrity, and consistency towards work culture. Ladies and gentlemen, let us watch the introduction video.
A distinguished doctor and leader, he has made an outstanding contribution to the nation's efforts to overcome the COVID pandemic. A key member of the Government of India's National Task Force for COVID, he is a central figure in the development, approval and application of vaccines. He chairs the Clinical Research Group of Indian Council of Medical Research for COVID. An expert on pandemics, he has been a member of the Government of India's Joint Monitoring Group for monitoring pandemic outbreaks since 2005. He has been involved in tackling the threats of many previous pandemics in India and has also been a member of WHO's Scientific Advisory Group of Experts. A specialist in pulmonary medicines, he has conducted extensive research on respiratory diseases. He founded the Department of Respiratory Medicine and Sleep Disorders at AIIMS. He also led research on the effects of air pollution on respiratory health, the link between driving safety and apnea, and the effects of yoga on pulmonary health. In 2015, he was awarded the Padma Shri for his services in the field of medicine. He is also the recipient of the Dr. B.C. Roy Award. All India Management Association is pleased to confer the AIMA Public Service Excellence Award for 2020 on Professor Dr. Randeep Guleria, Director, All India Institute of Medical Sciences.
Congratulations, Dr. Guleria. May we request you to kindly say a few words, please?
Thank you, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, Minister of Corporate Affairs and Finance, other dignitaries for this inaugural session, ladies and gentlemen. At the onset, let me take this opportunity to really congratulate AIMA on its 65th Foundation Day and 15th National Management Day. I would really like to thank the jury and Shri Pati Singhania, President AIMA, for conferring me with the AIMA Public Service Excellence Award. It's truly a humbling experience for me, because I personally feel that what I've done is part of my job, and to really be appreciated for it is something which is really something that I really appreciate. Last year has been challenging for the entire world. COVID has really challenged every sector of humanity, especially healthcare workers. And I would like to dedicate this award to the COVID-19 warriors who have really worked hard for more than 1 year. They have fought and will continue to fight for humanity and till we come out of this pandemic. Thank you very much. I'm deeply honored. Thank you.
Congratulations, sir. The next award for the day is the AIMA Lifetime Achievement Award for Management. This award was instituted in 1999 to honor some of the most eminent professional managers in the country. It is a recognition of sustained and exemplary leadership that has altered strategic management practice. The award recipients in this category have, over the years, left indelible footprints in the management profession, thought, and culture. Ladies and gentlemen, let us watch the introduction video.
A pioneer of Indian IT industry and an iconic philanthropist, he is a benchmark of holistic entrepreneurship. An agile entrepreneur, he turned his $2 million inheritance into a $10 billion global conglomerate. Today, Wipro is a leader in IT service, FMCG, precision engineering, automation and healthcare systems. He has achieved this extraordinary success by staying true to his ethics and focusing on the value delivered to customers. A stickler for responsible entrepreneurship, he has ensured that Wipro is always aligned with the social and environmental priorities and has insisted on ethics in wealth creation and modesty in wealth expression. He has allocated over 90% of his wealth to help build a just, humane and sustainable society. Today, the Azim Premji Foundation is one of the largest foundations of the world with an endowment of Rs 210,000 crores. He has been widely acknowledged for his outstanding achievements and conduct. The Government of India honoured him with the Padma Vibhushan Award in 2011, and the Government of France has also celebrated him with the Legion of Honour amongst many other accolades. All India Management Association is pleased to confer the 2020 AIMA Lifetime Achievement Award for Management on Mr. Azim Premji, former Chairman of Wipro Limited and Chairperson, Azim Premji Foundation. May I now request Mr. Azim Premji to say a few words.
Good morning. Thank you very, very much for bestowing this honor on me. The recognition is well and truly because of the tireless dedications of thousands of my colleagues and partners, both at Wipro and at the Foundation. So I share this honor with all of them. Thank you once again, and I wish all of you the very best.
Congratulations, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the last award for the day, which is the AIMA JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award. This award, established in 1995, is one of the most prestigious awards in the country. The award recognizes the recipient's contribution to society and the nation at large. It is in recognition of the awardee's corporate leadership in steering their organization towards achieving excellence and displaying it. Ladies and gentlemen, let us watch the introduction video.
A global business leader and an institution builder, he has been a linchpin of Unilever's growth across multiple regions and markets. He joined Unilever 28 years ago and has undertaken many leadership assignments across Asia and Africa, and for the past 7 years has spearheaded Unilever's dramatic growth in India and South Asia. Under his leadership, HUL's value has increased 4 times from $17 billion to over $70 billion. A proponent of compassionate capitalism, he instituted several social and environmental programs at HUL. During the COVID crisis, he drove the HUL initiative to contribute ventilators, testing kits and hygiene products to medical facilities and also helped migrant laborers. Under his leadership, Hindustan Unilever Foundation improved water availability in thousands of villages and enabled 1.3 lakh rural women entrepreneurs. He is a director on the board of ISB, a member of South Asia Advisory Board of Harvard Business School, and a member of the Breach Candy Hospital Trust. He also chairs Vikasa, a coalition that sponsors development efforts, and co-chairs the advisory network of the Panel for Sustainable Ocean Economy. All India Management Association is pleased to confer the AIMA JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award on Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director, Hindustan Unilever Limited.
Congratulations, Mr. Mehta. May we request you to kindly say a few words, please?
You're muted, Sanjiv. You're muted.
Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, President AIMA, Shri Harishpati Singhania, Senior Vice President, Director General, Srimati Rekha Sethi, Shri Uday Kotak, Dr. Randeep Guleria, who's done such an exceptional job in very challenging times, Mr. Azim Premji, one of my heroes and a legend in his lifetime, past presidents and council members, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and namaste. Thank you, AIMA. Thank you, jury. This is a big honor and a great privilege to receive the J.R.D. Tata Corporate Leadership Award. An award associated with Mr. J.R.D. Tata evokes a very special feeling. He was a pioneer, a great son of India, a great leader who left an indelible mark in the world of business in India and abroad. His brand of leadership and his values keep inspiring generations of business leaders. Mr. Tata once said, while we must aim at highest legitimate profit for the firm, we must always test our policies with a yardstick of service to the country and the people. This is compassionate capitalism. Receiving this award does give me immense joy and enormous pride. I owe this award to my parents, from whom I imbibed the values of hard work, integrity, being human, and love for the nation. Incidentally, today is my late father's birth anniversary. To my wife, Mona, who has been the wind beneath my wings. It happens to be our wedding anniversary today. Isn't the day special? Our daughters, Nana and Roshni, for their immense love. My company, Unilever, who has trained me, took risks with me, and gave me immense opportunities to lead businesses across several countries. And my dream team at Hindustan Unilever, who keep giving the best to me. I dedicate this award to our frontline people, those working in the factories, in the streets of the country, ensuring that products like soap, sanitizers, and other essential products are available across the length and breadth of the country. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the award presentation ceremony. Many congratulations to all our distinguished awardees. May I now request the dignitaries to virtually release the AIMA Foundation Day souvenir. May we have the film, please? May I request Mr. Harishpati Singhania, President AIMA, to introduce the Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister, though you really need no introduction, I still have to do the formal pleasure of doing this for everybody gathered here. Minister, before you were entrusted with managing perhaps the most important portfolio of finance, you have pursued academic excellence in economics with an MA and MPhil from JNU, and even enrolled for a PhD with specialization in Indo-Europe trade. We are sure it will come in handy when we pursue our FTA discussions with the EU. Before embarking on your political career, you worked for Agricultural Engineers Association, a trade association in the UK, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and briefly at the BBC World Service. On returning to India, you took up the mantle to promote women's empowerment and served as a member of the National Commission of Women. You joined the BJP and have been the party's well-recognized national spokesperson before being elected to the Rajya Sabha in 2014. And since then, you have had a meteoric rise in the party and government. Most importantly, ma'am, you have broken the glass ceiling in the government by becoming the first woman Minister of Finance in this country. Honorable Prime Minister Modi made you in charge of the COVID-19 Economic Response Task Force when the economy reeled under the impact of the pandemic and lockdowns. Under your leadership, India has weathered the twin storms of growth deceleration and the pandemic by ensuring timely stimulus to the economy and protected a large number of businesses and jobs. You have ushered in a wave of structural reforms to make India more self-reliant and move up the ladder of the global value chain. Honorable Minister, your budget for 2021 has provided a clear roadmap for a rapid recovery of the economy, and you have found an excellent balance between the needs of fiscal discipline and fast recovery of economic growth, the high priority on spending in capex. Earlier, you've also held the important portfolios of Defense Minister and the Minister of Commerce and Industry. You are a role model, ma'am, for professionals wanting to make a difference in the country's politics. It is my privilege to request you now to share your thoughts with us on the economy and to tell us how AIMA can work with the government to make the Indian economy stronger. Welcome once again, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singhania, for having invited me to participate on this occasion when the All India Management Association is celebrating the 65th Foundation Day, 15th National Management Day, and also taking this occasion to present the awards for some of the eminent business leaders of India. I'll first start with putting on record my appreciation to Mr. Azim Premji for receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award. He is a pioneer in the Indian tech industry, but I remember him and I shall continue to put my word of appreciation for the excellent philanthropic work that he does, and particularly in the field of education. So among many things that he does, the service that he provides for spreading good quality education is something which I would think a lifetime award on its own right is due to Mr. Premji. Sanjiv Mehta receiving the prestigious AIMA JRD Tata Award. My appreciations again for the excellent corporate citizenship's role that you play. You have been leading the business from the front, and even during days of COVID, you have shown leadership can make a difference to any organization. And therefore, the award is definitely given to the right person in times which are very trying. Dr. Guleria, of course, needs no recognition, much more than the public recognition he has received during this time when the medical fraternity has gone through a very trying phase, and they've stood up like rock pillars, assisting the public and making sure that the confidence in the medical fraternity is held very high. He stood up and was there to comfort every citizen, assuring them that best of efforts are being made in India and the results are there for all of us to see. So Dr. Guleria, you have really come literally into everybody's houses through the television channels and assured people about the great effort which has been going on. And this unforeseen pandemic, people like you have brought the difference. And therefore, this award only goes there to the right individual. And also my compliments to all those winners of Dr. Tarneja Award and also Dr. Juneja Award, which is for innovation in MSMEs. So I think the All India Management Association in its Foundation Day celebration is just doing the right thing of awarding and recognizing great leadership, which is so necessary for building institutions and serving the economy. You've chosen a very interesting one-liner for this celebration. transformation for continuity. And transformation is the word which Honorable Prime Minister refers to every so often, because change, incremental change, particularly for an economy like India, where entrepreneurs, business leaders, our youth are all desperate that India should sooner acquire the status of a very good, strong economy. Each one of them are doing their very best in making sure their contribution in their own chosen field is significant. Now, if that is the way, if Indian citizens, Indian business leaders are moving forward, we need the government also to come up with steps in time and appropriate steps so that that incremental change logic doesn't hold good now. It has to be transformational change. Unless we do such things which are going to bring in that kind of a transformational change, it's not going to be possible for India to reach that level which is so necessary to meet the aspirations of all our people, especially post-pandemic. And therefore, transformation is the right word. And I congratulate the AIMA for picking up on that particular word, because that's going to have to drive all of us in everything that we do, not just bring little changes here and there, but major changes which are going to be transformational for India. But yet, India requires the sense of certainty, assurance, and security in continuing to be what it is, which is a very strong people-led democracy, a nation which abides by rule of law, and making sure that every Indian will live and have a better life, healthy life, and access to education to all our citizens. So that is where the continuity in certain of these values that we've always held high is necessary, but the transformational change which is needed to get over decades of slow growth, get over decades of lethargy in terms of certain regulatory compliances which were lying like deadwood and causing businesses a great deal of burden in being nimble. Businesses will have to be nimble, and therefore the transformation will have to happen in institutions which will make life better for businesses, life better for our citizens, and life better for aspiring youth. And therefore, I commend you for having chosen such a very important and significant one-liner, which is going to guide all of us. As you know, Indian economy has gone through a contraction, and post the contraction, even through the lockdown, it's been the effort of the government to make sure that Indians are given the timely support, which is so required. And that is why the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, which was announced just in time after the lockdown was announced, had almost 1.93 lakh crores as the amount set aside. It gave food, it gave grains, it gave pulses, it gave cooking gas, and it also gave us some amount to manage petty expenses in the households for the most needy and the poorer people. We also ensured at that time that construction and building workers who are spread all over the country would get some kind of a financial support, and 1.82 crore construction workers were given some cash into their compensation that can help them live through the difficult period of the pandemic. During that time again, the Reserve Bank did its maximum best to go hand in hand with the government's measures, and 8.03 lakh crores of liquidity was made available through various announcements which the Reserve Bank made between March and April. And therefore, the immediate requirement during a lockdown for businesses to survive was taken care of. Other than that, through 3 different Atmanirbhar package announcements, 27.1 lakh crores were committed towards stimulus, and that itself had seen us through the lockdown till such a time the budget could come up. This budget, which has come up, therefore, after the pandemic, after the lockdown, after the slowing of the economy in 2019, has addressed several issues which are so critical for India to have a clearer path in the next decade or more, and also to give a sense of certainty for businesses, that policies will remain certain, policies will remain certainly predictable, and therefore businesses can continue to concentrate on their core activity. And that is why, even in the disinvestment related issues, we have just not behaved the way governments have behaved till now, item-wise saying this company or this particular undertaking will be sold off or disinvested partly or any of that. We have very clearly identified core sectors where bare minimum presence of government is only all that we can think of. The rest will be allowed for public-private partnership or private partnership or complete disinvestment. And that is why, as I see, even here, the mention of the word privatization has acquired a lot more than what I would thought traction, which I think indicates the mood of the nation. Disinvestment in trickles, not really being so successful in spreading the ownership pattern, have not been enthusiastically received. The industry needs, businesses need, and the economy needs a clarity in what does the government mean when it says strategic in disinvestment. Really, are you trying to give it to professionals who can run it better, or is the government going to more and more dip in taxpayers' money into this? And that is where I think I kept saying, I'm answerable for the taxpayers' money being used more productively, more efficiently, and it should be spent on those segments of our population who need all the support. And that's the true welfare India that we can think of. That is the way in which welfare society has to work. Give the people who so need that kind of assistance without fail. But that doesn't mean you can also run institutions which you can't run professionally and put taxpayers' money into that. Taxpayers' money will have to reach people who so require it in various different forms, and it need not be kept in institutions which probably you're not really very good at running. So I want to have an efficient, more meaningful, purpose-serving way in which our taxpayers' money should be spent, and therefore for efficient running. And in many of these issues, I also want to add very quickly, the disinvestment units or privatizing of units is not because we want them to be closed down. Not at all. We want them to be kept up and running, because for an economy like ours, which has very high demand for many of these items of production, such as steel, coal, or copper, or many such things in which public sector undertakings are there for decades now. Economy still needs all of those products. So when we are selling away these units, it's not for selling it away totally, even if it ends up being closed, not at all. We want these institutions to be run better, produce better, and productivity kept improved over the next several decades. So government really finds more sense for such undertakings to be run efficiently and better with a greater professional skill, which is so available out there outside of the government. So that is where the disinvestment policy has gone very clearly, a policy-driven, clear agenda, which we have presented in the budget. And I'm sure the Indian business leaders, industry leaders will understand this as it is being stated and make the best out of it. We need capacities to be ramped up. We need expansion. We need more production of very many such products which are so required for the economy. I would invite business leaders to post the corporate tax reduction. I've been waiting to see expansion happening. I've been waiting to see greater investments from private sector in India. So I would like to see now that the policy is clear, tax rates have been brought down, policy consistency is being underlined, and ease of doing business is still going further. I would like now to see private investors and private industry in India coming forward with that so-called animal spirit to show that it is possible for India to pull India up and keep it high as one of the fastest growing economies. It is now on your shoulder entirely. And I would want the All India Management Association to take the lead in showing what this budget has given and nudging businesses in India to come forward to bring in greater capacities, to produce and scale up so that we can be a leading player in the globe. So if that is one of the things which this budget clearly signifies, it also has spoken about how the financial sector is going to be really made a lot more robust. Other than the privatization that is also linked to financial sector, opening up of the insurance, bringing in 74% there is also a very clear indication that monies which are waiting outside, people who are interested, sovereign funds who want to come into India also get a clarity in financial sector policies of Government of India also. That is where these announcements, I think, carry a lot more long-term messages, as much as giving short-term stimulus. And therefore, I would think it is important for industry to read every bit of this budget. I did not speak for 2.5 hours, which was much commented upon last year. I've spoken for less, probably 1 hour, 40 minutes, but I would want each line of the budget, which has been very carefully thought out. The Prime Minister has spent hours on end hearing and contemplating on all the inputs that have been given by the industry, by businesses, by trades, and therefore has really given the best of his policy, best of his experience, best of his ground-based inputs, which he had the advantage of getting even as the Chief Minister of Gujarat and now as the Prime Minister for the country for nearly 7 years, elected for the second term as the Prime Minister. He has brought in his great experience, immense experience, and direct contact with industry in this budget making. And therefore, I would think every word of what is in this budget is of definite impact and meaning for industry. So I would request industry leaders to look at every bit of what is said in this and make the best out of this budget. I also would want to underline one more fact. Stimulus is required this year. Spending is required this year. It's also possibly required for the next year because we need to sustain the growth. And therefore, from the government, we are very clear we are not just doing it for one this year, but infrastructure. Commitment to spending on infrastructure, commitment to spending on capital expenditure from the government is not something which is a one-year story. It's going to have the next several years' impact. And therefore, sustaining the growth that we plan to have, that all of you would contribute to, is possible because government has chosen to spend in infrastructure in a big way. And that should severely give us the multiplier effect. So I want industry also to be assured that it is not just an immediate short-term relief that we've offered to the economy, but we are speaking of a policy which can last decades with relevance, and investments that government is doing is on projects and on infrastructure whose impact can last for this next 5-6 years. So I would want industry to see the big and the smaller picture in this budget. As is being said, yes, spending is being taken up, even with borrowings, but we have also given a glide path on the fiscal deficit management, which is where I want you to see this budget coming from a government which has a great sense of responsibility. We are spending, we are very clearly telling even the credit rating agencies that every country is going through this pandemic, and every country has to spend to keep their stimulus going. So every country's ratings will have to be in relative terms and not just context-wise into the silo of India, into the silo of X country or Y country. So spending, borrowing are all relative terms, and we would want every institution to look at it with a sense of the relative understanding and context. However, because we've given the glide path, the fiscal deficit is something which we'll watch probably after the stimulus giving has shown clear impact on the ground. The next year also is somewhere we've kept the fiscal deficit well over 6%. And that's where I want the industry to have the confidence that the government's commitment in choosing infrastructure and capital expenditure as the course through which stimulus is being offered is going to have an immediate impact on core sectors, immediate impact on labor, an immediate impact on demand creation, both at the industry level and also at the consumer level. And therefore, I expect this to be a sustainable, good growth for India in the next decade. With all your participation, with all your involvement, and with all your ideas coming into us, other than the action in the ground, I expect Indian economy to recover and recover at such showing ourselves as an exemplar to the entire world. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I once again wish all those participants who have received the awards and also the invited participants who are here to hear us participate and commend the All India Management Association, which is undertaking its 65th Foundation Day celebration and also the 15th National Management Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. May I now request Mr. C.K. Ranganathan to introduce Mr. Uday Kotak, please.
It's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Uday Kotak. He is entrepreneurship. He set up one of his companies in his to build one of which are Kotak Mahindra Bank. In the 1980 finance banking finance industry, he ensured that Kotak Mahindra Finance came out successfully many financial crises through the decades. The strong track record of the company allowed it to get the license to become a bank, a first for an Indian NBFC. Today, Kotak Mahindra Bank is among the top 4 private banks in the country. Always an innovator, he has been quick to digitalize his bank and make it competitive against fintech disruptors. During the lockdown, Kotak Mahindra Bank introduced contactless account opening and lending. He led the creation of in-house digital infrastructure and capabilities for data analytics and AI in the bank, a critical competitive advantage in the emerging digital economy. It is my pleasure to invite Mr. Uday Kotak, Managing Director and CEO of Kotak Mahindra Bank, to deliver the keynote address of AIMA's 65th Foundation Day. Over to you, Mr. Uday.
Honorable Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs, Nirmala Sitharaman ji, President Pati Singhania, C.K. Ranganathan, my guru and mentor Azim Premji, my friend Sanjiv Mehta, and of course Dr. Randeep Guleria, who's saving many of us from the crisis we are in the middle of. And ladies and gentlemen, first of all, Madam, thank you for your very invigorating words and actions. Let me step back and actually think about the world we leave behind in hindsight of 2020. As I look at the year ahead and the years ahead, I see three critical challenges and opportunities for the world. The first is to quickly move to a post-COVID world. And the faster we do it to get into the post-pandemic era, the better it is. And the world and India has taken up the challenge of vaccination. And I do hope we can vaccinate our people as soon as possible and embark upon the new journey. I go back to 100 years ago, which, madam, you mentioned in the context of the budget, which truly has turned out to be outstanding. And I think about the Spanish flu, and post that from 1920s, the world economy had what was known as the roaring 20s. I would like to see the world and India get into the roaring 20s of 2021 and beyond. And for us to get there, I think one of the most critical aspects is to get COVID behind us and under control as soon as possible. Therefore, the biggest opportunity and challenge for us is to get the vaccination done as soon as possible. So that is one big critical item for our future. The second one, madam, the world has taken us to a point where geography is history. I do see that in that context, India making a play for getting a fair share of the factory of the world, because factories can be anywhere. They don't need to be only dominant to the east of India. They can be very much in India, and the steps taken to encourage setting up factories into India so that India can also compete for being one of the major factories of the world is a very positive step. And I think your encouragement to business and industry to make India move in the direction of the factory of the world is the right step at this crucial juncture. I also, however, see another major opportunity in the context of geography being history, and that is India becoming the office of the world, not the back office, but the front and back office of the entire world. And why do I say that this is the opportunity beckoning us? Thanks to connectivity, thanks to COVID, we have realized and recognized the power of the digital and the virtual world. A person, if we can train and educate in the smallest village of India and give connectivity with technical knowledge and skill, that person can serve any company, any business, anywhere in the world. A small villager can be an outstanding engineer for a Google, Microsoft, or any other company, not only in America, but also in any part of India. Therefore, truly, if we can grasp the opportunity coming out of the pandemic, where geography is history, we can transform the world in a new manner in the context of the theme of today and what Prime Minister and you have always encouraged, transformation is key. Therefore, India has an opportunity to also be the office of the world. And the third point, which I think you have in many ways looked at and addressed in the context of your budget, is humanity and the world have gone in for disproportionate borrowing from the future in two areas. One is environment, and the second is money. And the pandemic has accentuated that even more. The time has come for us as the present generation to ensure that the borrowings we have done from environment, both present and past, we have an obligation to repay it back in good time so that the future generation does not get destroyed out of sustainability damage we would have done to planet Earth. And in that context, your focus on some key areas in the area of sustainability, as also in the area of healthcare, sanitation, and various other aspects are crucial for building a strong and a sustainable India, and an India which is committed to nature and planet Earth. The second aspect about of borrowing from the future is the world at large, and India too has had to borrow from the future for saving ourselves from the pandemic. And here your budget, which has focused on expenditure, moving away from revenue expenditure to creating more towards investment in infrastructure, which will create real assets for the future generation, is a right transformational change in the mix of how we are spending from the monies which we rightly owe to the future generation. And we must continue down that path because we owe it to them. And it is here that I would also like to say that what the government has done in the last few months is once again reiterate that there is a great conviction that enterprise and growth go together. And the signals which you have given and the mindset shift which you have told for Indian enterprise to have, that the government is as much committed to private sector as it is to public sector. We want to create jobs, we want to create opportunity. And the biggest aspect about the communication from the Prime Minister and you, Madam Finance Minister, that the time has come for us to celebrate enterprise, to celebrate creators of value and wealth for the country. And we must increase the size of the cake, which is crucial at this point of time in our history. The extremely important step which you have taken not to tinker with taxes in this budget is very appreciated, and you put a serious onus on business and industry now to respond and take up the challenge of making growth come back big time. And I just wanted to, in that context, also mention that the role which the government in coordination with RBI has played to ensure that the interest rates remain stable is also extremely important for what has been done and also over the next 12 to 18 months. We need to ensure that as the size of the borrowing program goes up, we are able to keep the long-term interest rates on the basis of which business and industry take the investment decisions also remain in a reasonable range so that long-term investment decisions can be taken. I understand it is a challenging thing because you're managing many different variables, but I think a stable tax rate and a reasonable range for long-term interest rates will really help business and industry to take long-term investment decisions. All in all, I would like to say India is at a critical journey and we have taken some bets. We have taken a call that we will define the destiny of India in a manner which gives us a cutting-edge position in the Committee of Nations. And I would like to state on my behalf, and I'm sure from my colleagues in business and industry, that our time is now. And the reach out with the government is done, that government and business and industry work hand in hand and shoulder by shoulder is the message which I think we must take it forward. And I am very confident about the future of India. Many of us have taken long-term bets on India and its future, and we are deeply committed to make India, the nation state, one of the greatest in the world. So we are with you in this journey. And I would like to state for all my colleagues that, my dear friends and colleagues, we now really need to get our animal spirits back. And we will have to do a lot more than applause. The time has come for us to walk the talk. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. May I request Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, Senior Vice President AIMA, to deliver the concluding remarks.
Tirumadi Nirmala Sitharaman, Minister for Corporate Affairs and Finance, Government of India. Mr. Uday Kotak, Mr. Pati Singhania, Mr. Azim Premji, Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, Dr. Randeep Guleria, past presidents of AIMA, members of AIMA Council, Rekha Sethi, Director General of AIMA, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to conclude this outstanding inaugural session. Honorable Minister, it's an honor to have you with us on the occasion of AIMA's 65th Foundation Day and to listen to your thoughts on rebuilding the post-COVID economy of India. Clearly, you are trying to use this crisis to steer Indian economy towards a production-driven growth. The strategy of reducing trade dependence of the economy after the disruption of critical supply chain during the COVID is the order of the day. Creating domestic jobs even at a higher cost in the short run to the government and the consumers is a priority at the moment. Being Atmanirbhar in what can be made in India is an important objective, and in the future, it will strengthen Indian enterprise to export more and import less. Honorable Finance Minister, your truly transformational budget has made it clear that India is going for an investment-led growth and not a consumption-led one. This is a model successfully practiced by many countries in their developing phase. An Indian economy also needs to build domestic capacities for rapid output growth. As you said, it is our turn to demonstrate. Industry will definitely surely demonstrate animal spirit in investments and job creation. It was a pleasure listening to you, and many thanks for addressing AIMA today. Mr. Uday Kotak, thank you for an outstanding keynote. You are blessed with a unique perception, and you have given us great insights into the transformation of the economy and business in the post-COVID track. Continuity of an enterprise depends on its ability to constantly adapt and renew itself. And you have pointed out constantly preparing for the future is the way to avoid disruption. We appreciate your observations on the economy and management. I'm sure that most of us agree with your prognosis for the future of finance and business in India. It was a pleasure hearing your views, and thank you for joining us today. Ms. Singhania, thank you for a very cordial welcome and your insightful suggestion for achieving continuity with transformation. Under your outstanding leadership, AIMA has thrived despite the crisis, and we look forward to your continued guidance and stewardship. Thank you. I congratulate all the distinguished winners of AIMA Foundation Day Awards. Mr. Premji, it's a privilege for AIMA to honor your win. Honor you with the Lifetime Achievement in Management Award. You are an icon of Indian IT sector and a role model for CEOs. Moreover, you are a standard bearer of modern philanthropy, and we all can learn about using our wealth to develop social capacity and strengthen the foundation of Indian economy. We appreciate that you honored us with your presence today. Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, many congratulations to you on your AIMA JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award. Under your leadership, Hindustan Unilever has become a nimble giant, and it is showing the way the other companies in management adaptation and business resilience. Your JRD Tata lecture was a fantastic listening. You made everybody appreciate that ultimately the various drive, the value and business leadership must never lose sight of the truth that even under we today, Dr. Fight against COVID, especially the testing, vaccination programs of COVID is far from over. Counting on you to bring this terrible pandemic to a quick end. Thank you for joining us today. My congratulations also to the winners of Dr. J.S. Juneja MSME Award and Dr. Tarneja Award for Best Writing in the Indian Management. It has been an action-packed and exciting inaugural session, and now we look forward to interaction with the distinguished award winners, Mr. Premji, Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, and Dr. Guleria. Please stay with us for the JRD Tata lecture by Mr. Sanjiv Mehta in the next session. Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you once again for your gracious presence. Thank you over there. Really appreciate.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our first session. We will be back for the JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award lecture in 10 minutes from now. Please stay tuned and do join us for the next session. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second session of the day. May I now invite Mr. Pati Singhania, President AIMA and Vice Chairman and Managing Director, JK Paper Limited, and Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director, Hindustan Unilever Limited, onto the virtual dais. May I request Mr. Pati Singhania, May I request Mr. Pati Singhania, President AIMA, to deliver the welcome address and conduct the session, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all. Shri Sanjiv Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director of Hindustan Unilever Limited, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to chair this special session with a special person, Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, Chairman Managing Director of HUL, and the winner of the prestigious 2020 AIMA JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award. Sanjiv, it's AIMA's privilege to present you this award, and we are delighted that you have accepted our invitation to deliver the JRD Tata lecture on AIMA's Foundation Day. But if I may, on a personal note, say this is even more special because, ladies and gentlemen, it happens to be Mr. Mehta's wedding anniversary, and he is stealing away time from his wife and family to be with AIMA. So once again, Sanjiv, personally grateful for this one. AIMA's relationship with the Tata Group goes back a long way, and the group has been one of the key supporters of AIMA's cause, which is to build the management capability of the country. AIMA is proud of its association with Mr. JRD Tata since its inception. And in honor of that association, in 1990s, AIMA instituted an award for corporate leadership in his name, which is given to the most outstanding CEO each year. The Tata Group, through Tata Chemicals, has supported this award with an exquisite trophy and a token prize. We thank the Tata Group and Mr. R. Mukundan, the Managing Director of Tata Chemicals, for their constant support. Mr. Mehta, we at AIMA have admired your outstanding achievements for many years, and you have been the recipient of the Managing India Award for Outstanding Business Leader of the Year in the past. You've also graced some key AIMA events, including chairing AIMA's flagship event, the National Management Convention, and have been on the AIMA Council for some years now. Though you need no introduction to this audience, let me, as the host, talk briefly about your remarkable achievements as a business leader. You've had a distinguished career with the Unilever Group over the past 3 decades, of which almost 2 decades have been spent overseas. You have led Unilever organizations in Bangladesh, Philippines, Middle East, and the North Africa region. You took over charge of Hindustan Unilever for India and South Asia in 2013, and since then, you have transformed the organization into a new age corporation. You're a member of the Unilever Leadership Executive, the company's global executive board. Under your stewardship, the market capitalization of Hindustan Unilever has more than quadrupled to about $75 billion. You have reorganized the company's management structure for greater agility and efficiency, and you are leading the digital transformation of the organization. You combine business excellence with social good, and you have driven several development initiatives at HUL. You believe that doing good is doing well. And under your leadership, the Hindustan Unilever Foundation has delivered clean water to millions of people, empowered women entrepreneurs in rural India, and promoted hygiene all over the country. Through the COVID period, HUL has been at the forefront of offering succor to the affected population and provided testing kits and ventilators to hospitals. HUL also collaborated with other companies to create quarantine facilities and ramped up production of sanitizers. JRD Tata would certainly have approved of your initiatives and achievements. It is now my pleasure to invite you to deliver the 2021 JRD Tata lecture. Mr. Mehta, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Singhania. It's been absolute pleasure, privilege, joy, honor to receive the JRD Tata Award. Thank you, AIMA. Thank you, the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Absolutely delighted to share my thoughts on what is the theme of the day today, which is transformation for continuity. All of us are familiar with the Greek philosopher Heraclitus' popular words, nothing endures but change. And yet, change, be it a small, barely perceptible one or the one in 100 years kind, is unsettling for most of us. Within the span of a year, we have witnessed a pandemic, social unrest in many parts of the world, economic setbacks, but also inspiring resolve on part of companies, governments, individuals across the world to fight the coronavirus, concerted efforts in terms of finding a cure for the vaccine, countries like India taking the high road in not just manufacturing the vaccine, but also supplying it to various countries who need it, the beginning of economic resurgence, and an altered perspective on the future of business and the world of work. In fact, history is testimony to the fact that the crisis similar to COVID-19 pandemic have ushered in transformation at a massive scale. Let me give you a few examples. The plague, also dubbed as Black Death, wiped out a significant proportion of the world's population in the 14th century. It resulted in better standards of living for survivors. The cholera pandemic in the early 19th century brought modern sanitation to center stage. The Spanish flu in the early 20th century, around the time of World War I, resulted in socialized healthcare systems being adopted by several nations, better disease surveillance, and more organized collection of health data. Man-made pandemics, such as the Second World War, resulted in the creation of international bodies such as the World Bank and the United Nations to help countries ravaged by war get the required support to rebuild. The Bengal famine in the 40s, which is supposed to have been the result of a combination of natural and man-made causes, contributed towards propelling India's independence struggle further. All these history-altering events, however unfortunate they may have been, have brought about change that has pushed the world order in a new direction. Social, economic, and environmental issues that existed prior to the pandemic have been pushed into stark focus. The world's richest 1% own nearly half of the world's wealth. And at the same time, there are 700 million people in the world who live in extreme poverty. The environment continues to deteriorate. And today, 1 in 3 people do not have access to safe drinking water. We have just seen in our country the havoc created by a breakaway glacier, as well as the direct economic impact. Many of these issues could drive social instability, civil unrest, nationalism, debt and credit crisis, protectionism, geopolitical realignment, and even possible military conflict, further magnifying the economic consequences. The rapid convergence of environment forces, economic struggles, and social tensions has led to widespread uncertainty and called into question the role that institutions play in the world today. In this context, business and governments increasingly face risk, volatility, and public skepticism. The societal context for business is changing. Planetary boundaries, the borders within which humanity can continue to develop and thrive, societal needs, and changing social licenses to operate are narrowing the opportunity space and restricting the ability of business to pursue value creation as usual. Consumers and investors expect shareholders' return, but also solutions for a better future. Businesses, in fact, can deliver both. In fact, they will have to. People believe that tackling environmental issues is as important as economic recovery. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer 2021, globally, business is generally trusted more by the citizens when compared with other institutions like the governments, NGOs, and the media. We Indians trust our institutions much more than any other country, and the trust on business is right on top. This is such a tremendous opportunity. but also one of great responsibility. Citizens are now entrusting us with their faith in doing the right thing. Let us seize this moment and work towards building a future that has the capacity to weather many such natural and man-made storms. We have the power to do better, do more, and do right. The business must lead the way. With vaccines rolling out, we are beginning to allow ourselves to imagine taking those tentative early steps into a re-engaged society. With this transition, the dynamics of work will continue to evolve. We will neither return to what we once knew, nor hopefully be driven by forces of an unmerciful global health emergency. Instead, our world will be defined by a state of uncertainty and unease. We will be steering our companies through unknowns. It will sometimes feel like all we have to rely on is trust in our people and the trust in us. Resiliency, character, and engagement will matter more than ever. Combine it with courage, care, a commitment to justice, and an enthusiasm to engage with the unclear and the indefinite. Transformation need not just be a process that is forced by events such as a pandemic. We have among us stories of transformation that have been driven by sheer vision and the ability to look beyond the immediate and short term. We had with us today Mr. Azim Premji, whom AIMA has honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award, or Wipro, who I'm sure all of you will agree is a great example of a leader who has done an amazing job of transforming his company. We've all witnessed the journey of Western India vegetable products to the IT giant that Wipro is today. And how can we forget Mr. J.R.D. Tata, the person whose legacy we honor and celebrate every time we give an award in his name? Transformation is hard work and not easy, ladies and gentlemen. But in a world of unprecedented disruption, it is an imperative. Let me share a few thoughts on transforming for continuity. First, build a purpose-driven business. Let me take a moment to go back in time to November 26, 2008. Mumbai witnessed a series of terrorist attacks that left us all in a shock. Hotels like the Taj and Oberoi were under siege. We will not be able to forget those attacks and the stories of courage and bravery that emerged from them. We've all read stories of how Taj employees treated the safety of guests as top priority and led them to safety while risking their own lives. The story of their grit in the face of danger and their unwavering determination to do their jobs, come what may, became a subject of case study at Harvard Business School. You must also have heard the story of President Kennedy bumping into a janitor carrying a broom during a visit to NASA Space Center way back in 1962. "I'm Jack Kennedy," said the president. And the janitor responded, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." That is the kind of commitment we would all like to have and see, don't we? I experienced something similar last year. In April, when the hard lockdown was in place, and most of us were safely ensconced in our homes, I happened to virtually speak to one of our factory teams. I was interacting with a factory floor worker, trying to understand how he was and what made him turn up to work every day during the crisis. He told me that he comes to work braving the risk because he's making soaps that save the nation. This for me was purpose. A couple of years back, we at Unilever reflected on a strategy, our role in society, and what is we as a team, as a company, and as a house of brands wanted to focus on. That declaration of intent was to be purpose-led and future-fit, based on three fundamental beliefs. Brands with purpose grow, people with purpose thrive, and companies with purpose last. We are committed to drive purpose and embed sustainability into every part of our business, and to create a purpose-driven workforce across the value chain. At Unilever, we are convinced that by doing so, we will deliver superior value to us as a business, but to all our stakeholders. A strong sense of purpose can unleash superior performance, but only if it is authentic, inspiring, and embedded throughout the organization. Purpose creates a sense of meaning. It goes beyond what an organization does, makes, or sells. Purpose inspires employees and unlocks the discretionary efforts to transform and grow. It also provides guardrails for decision making. Bringing purpose to life is not easy. It requires the discipline to roll it out across the company and a relentless focus on achieving tangible results. A strong purpose clearly communicates your story and drives the company to become the better version of itself. Ask, what do you aspire to be? What would the world lose if you were gone tomorrow? A strong purpose should have audacious goals. Make your purpose real through commitments that are tangible, trackable, and public. Purpose should speak both to the head and the heart. Organizations should combine facts and feelings to strike an emotional chord so people buy in, believe the purpose, and live the purpose. 2, develop a human-centric organization. The economic fallout of COVID-19 has exacerbated and shed light on severe inequities across the world. A large section of the world's population has little or no saving, and millions have faced devastation as unemployment and hunger rates have spiked throughout the crisis. Yes, despite the economic downturn, the stock markets have soared. It is abundantly clear that there is a profound disconnect here, and it does beg a question if today's business environment is really human-centric. In a landmark event, the Business Roundtable CEOs in August 29 repudiated the long prevailing Milton Friedman thinking of shareholder supremacy. Unilever, on the other hand, has always believed in the multiple stakeholder model, and I'm personally a great believer in this model. A human-centric business achieves greater and lasting success. They've become much more adept in managing teams, as well as attracting and retaining a diverse network of employees who are innovative and, very importantly, creative. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, asserts that the human-centric model combines on an equal level of importance a profit seeking with social and environmental sustainability. It includes the concepts of environmental sustainability, decent work practices, values of integrity, and an empathetic lens to strategy. I would believe that a human-centric organization should have at least the following pillars. First, build purpose around improving the society, based on solving people's problems and meeting people's unmet needs, not just making money. 2, develop a human-centered culture which provides psychological safety, fosters diverse thinking and perspectives, and creates opportunities for employees to feel engaged and heard. Third, create jobs of the future. One of the biggest challenges the world faces today is inclusive growth, or lack of it, and ensuring that millions of youth who are ready to join the workforce are gainfully employed. It is very likely that millions will lose their current jobs to new technologies. The pandemic could accelerate this process. Realizing this societal need, Unilever has committed to reskilling and upskilling all employees to have future skill sets and have committed to helping equip 10 million young people with essential skill sets to prepare them for job opportunities in the decade ending 2030. Put core and compassion at the center of leadership. It is urgent and necessary, not just desirable, to humanize leadership. For decades, we have been portraying and practicing leadership as a heady mixture of passion, vision, and skills, making leaders ill-prepared to recognize and alleviate human suffering, let alone address the systemic issues that cause and perpetuate it. Unilever has committed to ensure that everyone who directly provides goods and services to the company earns at least a living wage or income. Not just the minimum wage, but the living wage by 2030. People need more of care and less of battle cry. Third, make sustainability a business goal. The emergence and spread of COVID-19 was not only predictable, it was predicted. A 2007 study of the SARS outbreak published in the Clinical Microbiology Review concluded the presence of a large reservoir of SARS-CoV-like viruses in horseshoe bats, together with the culture of eating exotic mammals in southern China, is a time bomb. David Quammen explained in his prophetic book, Spillover, Animal Infection and the Next Pandemic, published in 2012, we disrupt ecosystems and we shake viruses loose from the natural host. When that happens, they need a new host, Often, we are it. The pandemic has demonstrated how fragile and unsustainable the world has become. The existing crisis was predictable in many ways, but the world was in denial. Years of unsustainable consumption leading to climate change and loss in biodiversity are at the root of this crisis, having spurred a rise in zoonotic diseases, infections that come from animals. New diseases, however, are just the beginning. From coastal erosion to the decline of natural resources, such as fisheries and forests, loss of nature carries a huge economic cost. While some may disagree with the moral imperative to preserve the natural world, there can be no disagreement on the economic imperative of doing so or the urgency of acting with speed and scale. We need to reset our relationship with nature by valuing it as an indispensable resource. We need to apply nature-based solutions to our greatest challenges and create more robust resilience to systemic shocks. Unilever is challenging itself to high standards to protect ecosystems like forests, peatlands, and tropical rainforests, and have committed to a deforestation-free supply chain by 2023. Recognizing the grave water problem our country faces, Hindustan Unilever Foundation, working with the partners in over 5,000 villages, in the last 8 years has created a water potential of over 1.3 trillion liters. To put in perspective, this can meet the drinking water needs of the entire Indian population for a year. Global warming, along with the impact of other negative human activities, is devastating our oceans. This is leading to an alarming rise in sea levels that could displace millions of people. Oceans produce half the planet's oxygen and absorb 90% of the anthropogenic heat. Billions of tons of plastic dumped into the oceans contaminate hundreds of species of marine life. The ocean, ladies and gentlemen, is not too big to fail, and it is not too big to fix, but it is way too big to ignore. Let us accept that combating climate change is one of humanity's defining challenges of the 2020s. If we are to resolve the climate crisis, we must protect, restore, and sustainably manage nature. It is no longer enough for businesses to be less bad or even not bad. We need to be good. We need to actively reverse the damage we have done over several decades and centuries. Let me give you an example. Unilever has made sustainability a business goal. It has committed to net zero emissions from all its products by 2039, from the sourcing of the material it uses up to the point of sale of its products. It has also committed to transition away from fossil fuel-derived chemicals in cleaning and laundry products by 2030, unlocking new ways of reducing its carbon footprint. Here in India, in the fiscal year 21-22, we will collect and process more plastic than we use in our packaging material. Fourth, create a competitive advantage through speed, agility, adaptability, and resilience. It seems obvious that when faced with a crisis, companies should simply dial up more speed and agility to seize an opportunity. But this is easier said than done. Speed is not simply an attribute of an organizational activity tied to a clock time. Rather, speed is a complex, performance-enhancing organizational capability that requires a holistic approach to its development and execution. Speed alone enables companies to operate quickly only in already established product domains. During a crisis, company must also demonstrate agility, a capability that allows the organization to pivot to adjacent or entirely new product domains. Organizational speed and agility depend, in my views, on three interconnected capabilities. Recognition speed to identify opportunities and threats. Decision speed to decide on a new course of action. And execution speed to effectively reconfigure and mobilize the resources necessary for change. It is important for all aspects of speed to be in sync. We have realized that even with the best prediction models, we cannot predict a way to a no-risk world. This therefore means we must become far more adaptable. The crisis has shown adaptable teams retool in a matter of days. On the other hand, seemingly successful organizations with vast prediction capabilities paralyzed as the virus spread. During this crisis, many organizations driven by low cost, high efficiencies, and capacity utilization were caught at the wrong foot. These businesses need to determine Which parts of the value chain do they manage for cost and efficiency, and where do they build for redundancy so that it is resilient to shock? Fifth, progress towards an intelligent enterprise. Creating an intelligent enterprise is not about moving the business to cloud. The latter project is simple and can easily be done by one of the big cloud providers. The core reality is that intelligent enterprise is not built around off-the-shelf tools and techniques. The machine learning-based system that can drive a car cannot beat Vishwanathan Anand in chess. Similarly, the Watson computer that defeated Jeopardy king Ken Jennings cannot drive me in Mumbai traffic to my office. The AI systems that beat humans are dealing with a bounded problem, one that has a finite set of rules. Businesses, on the other hand, operate in a real world, face unbounded problems within a universe of infinite possibilities. Despite a very robust risk assessment system in Unilever, we had not envisaged the risk of pandemic as a possibility, as a real possibility. Progress towards an intelligent enterprise will require significant efforts to improve organizations' decision-making capabilities. This requires talent and corporate culture to align in a way that cultivates new ideas. One good way to move towards this objective is to have team members which come from varying backgrounds and have different experiences and perspectives. However, everyone in the team needs to be trained to understand the problems they are solving, the techniques needed to approach complex problems systematically. We need to have engineers, management graduates, chartered accountants, liberal art majors, and statisticians come together to solve complex, non-linear problems. These cross-functional team members can apply the unique insights to tackle ever-changing problems and circumstances in a corporation. An intelligent enterprise can help organizations reassign responsibilities for mundane and repetitive tasks that require memory and calculation to our AI and free up humans to focus their efforts on creativity and judgment. This, I believe, will be the future of a successful enterprise. Last but not the least, I would be remiss if, while accepting an award for leadership, I do not reflect on the leadership required in perilous times and to transform. History is filled with stories of leaders who rise to the challenges of a crisis and those who crumble under its weight. During the crisis, leaders have had to protect the health of the people, navigate demand and supply shocks, maintain morale and business momentum, adjust the sails of the strategy, and contribute to the community. Leading through ambiguity and chaos is a test of character. Leaders need courage to seize opportunities. They also understand they will make mistakes along the way, and they will have to pivot quickly as this happens, learning as they go and not being deterred by failures. It is perfectly fine for leaders not to have all the answers. They empower the people and delegate to the edge. There is ample evidence to show that leaders who trust and empower their teams unleash powerful potential. The common characteristics of great crisis leaders are a robust stress management capability, abundant resilience, networking prowess, social capital, a strong commitment to inclusivity, and a cool head when others overreact. Great crisis leaders live the purpose and values of the organization to inspire loyalty and to generate the best idea. They also accept that luck or circumstances may play a role in the success and admit this rather than claiming complete credit for every victory. Humility is, after all, vital to rallying an organization behind a strategy. Successful leaders constantly analyze what has happened and, as the crisis unfolds, gauge their success and adapt their strategies. However, they always stay true to their non-negotiable values, such as accountability, credibility, integrity, humility, and kindness, which can be thought of as a compass guiding the mission. Strategy, on the other hand, is treated like a GPS that needs to be adjusted constantly to reach the destination. One of the important traits successful leaders will have to have is what Carl Weick describes as sense making, which is to make sense of the complex external world we are living in. Leaders need to make sure that they update their understanding of shifts in technology, markets, customers, channels, and competitive moves. Sense making involves pulling together disparate views to create a plausible understanding of the complexity around us, the testing, understanding, refining it, and if necessary, abandoning it and starting over. Sense making never leads to a flawless picture of what is happening. The world is uncertain and constantly changing, and our understanding will always have limits. Sense making is not about achieving omniscience, it's about learning. Sense making ability means having a wide network and ability to reach out to many stakeholders, listen, see patterns in complexity, and think across polarities such as efficiency versus effectiveness or safety versus economy. Leaning into the future is not going to be for the weak, but neither will it be for the bullheaded or the blindly self-righteous. We need the brave, but we also need the modest, the curious, and the accountable. We are stakeholders not only in our own companies, but in the health, happiness, and prosperity of the planet, our country, and those who inhabit it. Ladies and gentlemen, the jobs of leaders to transform for continuity in a world marked by disruption and threat will have never been more difficult nor more important. Thank you, AIMA, for inviting me to give this lecture.
Thank you, Sanjiv. Thank you for your very comprehensive talk and on a wide range of topics, which is really the hallmark of a true leader, which you are. So really you reinforce what J.R.D. Tata would have, believed in the spirit of the J.R.D. Tata Award from AIMA. Thank you once again, Sanjiv. We have a few minutes.
Please.
I know we're running a few minutes late, but if I may, there are some questions, and if I may we have about 10-12 minutes. And if you don't mind, I will pose them for you. You talked about leadership, and you've talked about a lot of your experiences. So which ways do you personally think, if you reflect, has the COVID crisis changed, if I may say, or impacted your leadership strategy? You were a leader, but you came into this crisis. If you can share some changes that you experienced.
No, thank you, Harsh. In my career, spanning now over 3 decades, I have been thrown at the deep end of crisis on several occasions. When I was a rookie at the age of 23, 24, I was made a crisis member. I was then working for Union Carbide of the Bhopal crisis team. And I believe a boy became a man working in Bhopal for a year and a half, handling the aftermath of the massive gas tragedy. When I was leading the business in Bangladesh for Unilever, we had a massive outcry against the Western companies after the Second Gulf War. When I was in North Africa, Middle East, I was in the thick of the Arab Spring, which you will recall spread from the fruit vendor in Tunis and spread all across the region. So I think in many ways, you may say that my career has trained me to manage crisis. But this crisis was different in many ways. It was different because this was an economic crisis, this was a health crisis, this was a societal crisis, and it was a crisis which impacted not just a country or certain parts of the world, but it impacted the entire world. So one is, of course, there are certain aspects of crisis that you always bring to the fore. But it has also brought home the point that we cannot be a lone rider anymore in the world. We cannot be a lone rider as a company. We can't be a lone rider as a country. You need all of us to win this battle. Otherwise, we won't be able to control the pandemic. So that's one point. The second important bit, at the end of the day, it really boils down, Harsh, is you focus on looking after your people and the people will look after your business. That's so vital. It's fundamental. You have to not look at the blue book or the cost when it comes to protecting the health or the safety of the people. But once you do that, they go the extra mile, they look after your business and provide you more than what you have invested in them. The third important bit, which is so important, is like I was mentioning, is this entire thing about speed, agility, resilience, and adaptability. Over the years, corporations have been focusing on effectiveness, efficiencies, driving very hard. And in the process, there has not been much tolerance left for resilience. And that is why it has become so important for people to realize that where in the value chain you would build for resilience and where in the value chain you would have, very importantly, speed and effectiveness still being driven. The two important things which I've captured here, which to me were also learnings, is when you look at speed, everyone talks about speed and agility, but you need to deconstruct what speed means. Yeah, and that's where the three elements come in. One is the recognition speed, when you recognize an opportunity or an issue. The second is, okay, abhi karenge kya uska? What are we going to do about it? The decision-making speed. And the third is the execution speed, bringing your organization's prowess, the structures to act on it. So this is one very important bit of speed. And the last one, where I talked about it in my lecture, is sense-making. You will never have perfect information. None of us will have. If we have the perfect information, we would be able to predict the crisis. So the ability to bring disparate information and make sense out of it is, I think, a trait which all leaders will have to develop in the future. This is something which the management schools will have to teach. How do you develop the trait of sense making?
Thank you, Sanjiv. Great response. And I like the way in which you sort of not just analyze, but you break up a seemingly complex issue into small parts, which are bite-sized and one can deal with it. Again, really, really great. I think we have time for maybe one more question. And I'd like to say that, look, we've all talked about, and even today in the earlier session, the finance minister and others remarked on the crisis and what we have learned and things. What do you think could be some lessons that we have learned? And you talked about it in your address as well, which we have learned, which we, if I may say, should remember not to forget and throw away after this crisis has passed. So,
Yeah.
What we're all talking about this, what after a year or two, which are some of the...
Sure. I think there are two things I'll pick up. Yeah, one is healthcare. Yeah, there is no, when India, I think we have to applaud the government for going in for the hard lockdown, because at that stage, while everyone was cribbing about it, we must realize that, but we must realize that the healthcare system in the country was very fragile. And I believe, Harsh, just like the Y2K crisis gave a stimulus to the IT industry in the country, the current pandemic could give a real momentum to the healthcare industry in the country. Yeah. And healthcare we need for our own population, and as well as going up the value chain, as well as being a major provider of pharmaceutical products to the world. We also realize that by giving up local manufacturing of API, which is the active pharmaceutical ingredients, we have done a big disservice to the nation. So going back and starting to manufacture APIs is also very critical. I believe India can really become the affordable healthcare capital of the world. Yeah, and this will not only be good for the citizens of the country, but it could be a massive growth engine for the country. So this is one. The second important bit, for pandemic, we will get a vaccine. We have got a vaccine, people will get vaccinated. But for climate, there won't be a vaccine. And I think we have to stop procrastinating. I'm so happy that the US administration under President Joe Biden have again come back to the Paris Accord. Yeah, it was a complete, absolutely wrong step taken by the previous administration. Yeah. And this is a crisis which is staring at us. If we are not able to control the global warming, then large swaths of land and many parts of our own country will get underwater. And we are talking about devastation not seen earlier. Look at, what happened with this glacier melt falling apart in Uttarakhand just a few weeks back. How many people we lost? And this is just a small impact of the climate crisis that is facing us. So my urge would be that first, as a world, we have to stop procrastinating, take concrete steps. And as businesses, we have to adopt sustainability as a business goal. If I have to pick up two big lessons that the world should not forget, one is to accelerate on climate, the other is healthcare.
Okay, thank you. That's great. And actually, on climate in particular, I think Unilever, as you've described, also has had a great organizational commitment around it. And I've had I've had the opportunities to interact with Paul Polman, your former head and your global head, and he's been very passionate. He always talks about it. Doesn't like people say, don't let a crisis go to waste. He doesn't let even one interactive session on any global platform
Absolutely.
without talking
Absolutely. Just like he was very passionate, our current CEO, Alan Jobe, is equally passionate. And you will find most of the leaders in Unilever very passionate about sustainability and climate.
It goes back to some of the points that you made in your talk about the purpose, about being passionate, about also having compassion. So all of this shows that it's not individual humans who are just believing in these causes, but it's an organizational wide belief in Unilever, and
Absolutely.
in these examples.
Absolutely.
I would have loved to chat more, and there are many more questions and thoughts, and with somebody but we were running late, as you know, and I'd with your permission, like to end here. But before I end, I want to once again congratulate you on receiving AIMA's Corporate Leadership Award, the JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award, and particularly sparing time on a very important day for you, on a personal day with your wedding anniversary. And the fact that you talked about so many important things, doing the right thing, which is very important, things that we need to reflect on. The responsibility on business to rise up to multiple challenges and issues. And your repeated use of the words like trust and character really, to me, have been standouts. A lot of other things are business, but these are values, these are traits that we need to consciously nurture and imbibe. So thank you very much for your talk, for being with us today at AIMA, and best wishes. And now I think we should let you go and spend time with the family. Thank you indeed.
Thank you, Harsh. Thank you, AIMA. Have a fabulous.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our second session. We will be back for our next session on vaccinating India very shortly. Please stay tuned, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you, sirs, for an excellent session. and gentlemen, welcome to the third session of the day. May I now invite Ms. Preetha Reddy, Vice Chairperson Apollo Hospitals, and Dr. Randeep Guleria, Director All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, to the virtual dais. May I request Ms. Preetha Reddy to deliver the welcome address and conduct the session, please.
Dr. Guleria, members of AIMA, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. To me, it's particularly an honor to be here along with Dr. Guleria. Dr. Guleria, globally, India has been acknowledged for the tremendous work which has happened over the past 1 year. I had the honor of meeting our distinguished Prime Minister, and the only thing he could speak about was how India has done us proud in every aspect of dealing with the disease, including with the pandemic, and including the fact that our vaccines have been the quickest, fastest, and we have really vaccinated the largest population globally. Dr. Guleria, we know that you have been on the advisory, you have been the true leader in the corona war, and the amount you have done and worked tirelessly 24/7 over the past 1 year is commendable. Thank you so much for being here, and I think the honor is just a small way of us acknowledging the kind of work you have done and the way you have led the teams behind you, not only in the public sector, but I think the private sector also has looked to you to give the direction, to give the scientific inputs, and tell the rest of the country what needs to be done. So I'm delighted to be with you on this panel. The finance minister in her speech said that, you have actually gotten to people's homes, advising them, cheering them up, and being there as a total, a support system. And I think that is so true, because all of us watched you every evening whenever we knew that you were going to be there, because honestly, at a point, everybody was frightened. So thank you for truly being there looking after everybody. While I congratulate you on this award, I also know and understand that the healthcare has been a crisis, and not only for India. And I'm proud to be an Indian, because India has really done so much better than some of the developed nations. And I think that has been there because we had the trust in a scientific team which said that, this is the way, this is the norm. While there was a bit of concern on the lockdown, I think the advice on the lockdown and implementation of the lockdown actually helped us to be in a better state than we could have been otherwise. So I think the inputs, the advice, the courage has really helped us. We know from, historically you have treated some of the biggest VIPs in the country. But what I would like to say is that you've also treated the common man. You've also set norms for treatment of the common man. And I think that really is commendable, because it's a 360-degree approach to delivery of healthcare. And we have learned from you on what has to be done. Post-COVID, there was a lot of talk on the economy and how the economy has to be revived, and how, we're on a trajectory to really transform ourselves as a country. But the health and economy of a country goes hand in hand. So while we want to say an economically healthy India, we should also, at this session, we will understand that a healthy India is actually an economically healthy India. So I think the healthcare is in good hands in terms of direction. There are challenges, the challenges have come maybe more in the forefront during this time, but I think we learned from that. And as Sanjiv said earlier, that the Y2K crisis, how it catapulted a lot of industries into being able to grow, to be able to sustain things. I think the same situation will happen with healthcare. And the inputs, the way we face challenges will make us a better, a stronger, a more resilient India. And we have already shown the rest of the world that we can actually do it. So with this, I would like to say that, we're so proud to be Indians. We are so proud of the healthcare community and what you have all done for India, and looking forward to hearing from you how we can really take India forward and keep it a truly healthy nation with all the onset of, the multiple factors which come. Thank you so much, Dr. Guleria, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Preetha Reddy, Vice Chairperson, Apollo Hospital. I'm really grateful for your comments. Many of us have really done what we felt was a job, and I'm very happy that India has actually shown the way in many ways as far as COVID-19 is concerned. So and in the pre-talk, there was this whole discussion that we need to really put health as far as India is concerned on the center stage. And I think that becomes more and more important as we start talking of today. I'll just start my talk. Let me just share my screen.
Mute off, mute on.
Just give me a minute because it's now, it was sharing some time back. So while I get my screen started, let me just really start off by saying that healthcare was something that had to be, has become over the last 1 year on the center stage as far as COVID-19 is concerned. And we need to really see that we are able to sustain whatever we learned as far as the pandemic was concerned. One thing that we really learned was that we were able to really come together, various sectors were able to come together as far as healthcare was concerned and be able to make a difference, whether it be vaccine development, just give me a minute. I'm not able to get the screen which I was able to get last time. So today, actually, the topic that I'm going to be talking to you is on vaccination and how India can actually become the hub as far as vaccination is concerned. It is becoming more and more important for us to understand that screen share नहीं हो रहा ये वाला.
Guleria. I can see it.
Okay. So I basically COVID-19 vaccine has been touted as the most effective public health measures to end the pandemic. As a matter of fact, it has been said that it would be the beginning of the end once vaccines were rolled out. Why is it important for us to have vaccines? And that's basically, if you look at this curve, if we really looked at trying to immune person get what we call herd immunity, and with a lot of measures in between in terms of social isolation and other things, wearing a mask, it would still take a very long time for us to have a large number of people who would have immunity. That can really be hiked up with the vaccination, and that is why a vaccine is needed. Also, we're not sure in terms of natural infection, how are the titers of neutralizing antibodies and how long does this immunity last. That is why when vaccines came out in December, it was actually touted as the weapon to win the war as far as US or the world was concerned. Just briefly before we start, I just wanted to really make people get an idea of what is important. You know, when we look at a vaccine, we have three important things that we need to keep in mind. One is the antigen, the antigen which will go into the human body and produce the antibodies which will help us to fight against the virus. And we know that from a lot of literature that the spike protein on the COVID-19 is the one which can produce a large amount of antibodies. The second thing which confuses a lot of people is the platform by which the vaccine is delivered. And we have various platforms. We have the inactivated or killed virus platform. We have the live attenuated virus vaccine platform, the recombinant viral vaccine, the protein subunit vaccine, the VLP, and the DNA vaccine. These are all platforms which actually help to deliver the vaccine into the human body. And we have various routes and regimens. We all know currently we're using the intramuscular route, and we're giving 2 doses, the initial priming dose and the booster dose as far as vaccine is concerned. And for the first time in the history of mankind, do we have so many viruses, so many vaccines that can expose the body to an antigen that won't cause a disease and will provoke a good immune response. We have inactivated, weakened, the viral vector, and so many other vaccines. If you look at candidates which are available in different categories, we have Covaxin, which is an inactivated vaccine. Sinovac is also an inactivated vaccine. We have a vector-borne vaccine which uses the adenovirus. Covishield uses the chimpanzee adenovirus, and the Sputnik uses the human recombinant adenovirus. And then we have the messenger RNA and the DNA vaccines. Pfizer and Moderna are the messenger RNA vaccines. For the first time in the history, has India become so much involved in R&D as far as vaccine is concerned. India was the manufacturing hub as far as vaccine is concerned. 60% of the global vaccines for children and for pregnant women were provided by India. But the research component, the R&D component was not that strong. But now if you look at what's happening, we have Covishield, which is in collaboration with Oxford and AstraZeneca. Covaxin is a Bharat Biotech vaccine. Zydus Cadila is coming out with their own DNA-based vaccine. Sputnik is basically with Gamaleya Institute that Dr. Reddy laboratory has collaborated. And we have various other institutes like Biological E, Genovia in Pune, all doing research in collaboration and coming out with so many vaccine candidates. So the vaccine landscape has changed dramatically as far as our country is concerned, from manufacturing to now very aggressive R&D. And because of that, we need to have a lot of preclinical work, which looks at vaccines to animals, monitoring for side effects. The phase 1 trial, which is basically done on a small number of healthy individuals to look for side effects and to really get an idea of the dose. And then a phase 2 trial, which looks at the demographic side effects and the efficacy in terms of COVID-19, the neutralizing antibodies. And then a very large phase 3 trial, which looks at how the vaccine behaves as far as community is concerned. Now, vaccine development has usually taken years, decades as a matter of fact. But because scientists came together, because of the work that had already been done, we had the COVID-19 vaccine available in less than 1 year. The rapid pace was enabled by multiple factors. One is prior knowledge, the spike protein coronavirus. This was already known because of previous work being done on MERS coronavirus and SARS. And new technologies had come had been developed, not for COVID, but even for Ebola and for even MERS coronavirus, which was nucleic acid vaccine technology. And we were able to do a lot of things in parallel rather than sequence in terms of the trials. And therefore, rather than going through a sequence of preclinical phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 studies, these were done in parallel. Safety and efficacy, and a lot of investment was done by governments, by the industry, to really be able to get vaccine as early as possible. And I feel that maybe in the next few months, vaccines will start coming in less than 1 year, maybe 6 months to 9 years. Currently, if you look at vaccine development, there are almost 69 vaccines which are in various clinical development stages, and 181 vaccines which are in preclinical development. Never before we had so many vaccines being looked at for one virus. And this is just to give you a one of the different varieties of vaccine that we're looking at, from protein subunit to viral vector to DNA. There's a whole branch. And if you start looking at the phase of trials that I discussed, they're in different stages as far as phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and the approval stage is concerned. But for any country and for anyone that is looking at a vaccine, the program has to look at development and production. What is the capacity to develop and produce the vaccines? Is it affordable for that country? How do we deploy it? Is it feasible considering the cold chain that has to be maintained? And remember, some vaccines need very low temperature. And how do we prioritize as far as vaccine delivery is concerned? These factors become very important for any country, and these were factors which were important for India also when it considered rolling out the vaccine program. If you look at the vaccine production and capacity, if you look at the Pfizer vaccine, they had an estimate of 50 million doses in 2020 and 1.3 billion doses in 2021. The challenge is that this requires minus 70 degrees cold chain maintenance, and it needs 2 doses. The Moderna vaccine, again, the company had said that they could have 20 million doses in 2020 and around 500 million to 1 billion doses in 2021. Again, requires minus 20. But if you look at the Indian vaccines, the AstraZeneca or the Serum Institute vaccine, by 2021, the company is confident that they can have up to 3 billion doses. And this requires just maintenance of 4 to 8 degrees, and therefore distribution, storage and handling of the vaccine can be done using existing infrastructure, and 2 doses are required. Covaxin also, currently around 20 million doses are available, but they have the capacity to really hike this up to 700 million doses. And again, the existing infrastructure is sufficient. So these 2 vaccines seem to be suitable both in terms of the cost and in terms of the distribution, which is very, very important for a country like India. But developing vaccine is only half the work done. Delivering it equitably is the most important step. And this has been shown by a large number of papers, that manufacturing billion of doses is being done, but distributing it in the rich and poor countries is very, very important. And data suggests that if vaccine was distributed only to high-income countries, only 33% of deaths could be averted. However, if the vaccine was distributed to all countries proportionate to the population, we could be able to at least defer 61% of mortality. If you look at the global perspective, and that is something which is a great cause of concern, almost the 5 wealthy nations plus the European Union have more than 50% of the vaccine pre-ordered. As a matter of fact, 10 countries have almost 75% of the vaccine which have been pre-ordered. And if we start looking at the number of doses that have been ordered, for example, Canada has ordered almost 8 doses per person as far as the vaccine is concerned and pre-ordered. And this has been done by US, UK, Australia, even the European Union, that the number of doses ordered has been far more than the number of individuals living in that country. WHO started the COVAX program. It has secured 700 million doses. And this is basically to distribute it to different parts of the world. And AstraZeneca also has pledged a not-for-profit supply of doses varying from $3 to $4. If you look at the cost comparison of various vaccines that are available, you'll see that the Bharat Biotech vaccine and the AstraZeneca vaccine are the ones which are really affordable. And I mentioned that cost is a big issue. As we go up, we find that the cost really goes up when we start looking at the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, and also if you start looking at the Sinopharm vaccine. So cost becomes a very important issue, and the vaccines being produced in India have a global demand because most countries find that they are practical both in terms of delivery and affordability. How does corona vaccine compare to other vaccines? We must remember that the flu shot that we give every year, its efficacy varies from around 44 to 70 to 80%. Yet it's something that is given every year and has been shown to decrease mortality. So therefore, there is a utility in these vaccines, and they are comparable to vaccines that we have been routinely giving as far as various other viral infections are concerned. The major concern is that have been raised and future challenges are that this vaccine is injectable, and although they elicit a systemic immune response, they may not elicit a response in the upper respiratory tract. But now we have a nasal vaccine which is in preclinical stage, and this should be useful. The fear of enhancement of severity of disease after vaccination, this is no longer true because a large number of people have been vaccinated and this has not been shown as far as this vaccine is concerned. We don't know how long the protection will last and whether there will be repeated vaccination. This is a question that probably we'll get to know at the later part of this year. And similarly, the adverse effect of vaccination in those who have not been trialed, especially pregnant women and young children, is still unclear. And I hope that this data will also emerge and we will be able to actually start vaccinating young children soon, keeping in mind the fact that colleges and schools will open up and we need to make sure that they are also protected. Long-term adverse effect of COVID-19 vaccine, again, not known, not likely to be significant, but there needs to be follow-up as far as these novel platforms are concerned. Also, when we have having so many vaccines, it will become difficult to do vaccine trials because it will be unethical to do a phase 3 trial with a placebo arm. And therefore, one will have to look at what we call correlates of protection to really see how effective this vaccine is. And we will have to do what we call a non-inferiority trial rather than doing vaccine trials. I think the most important thing to remember is that this is the first time that we're looking at vaccinating the world, and it has financial, logistic, and social issues and challenges. And the pandemic will really be over when it's controlled globally, as we have seen happening in different parts of the world with mutant strains and variants coming up, which travel from one area to the other. They travel from UK to in Europe, and now we have the South African strain also going across. So the pandemic has to be controlled globally. Regional control will really not get us out of this pandemic. Also, when we talk of a vaccine, we need to understand what are the endpoints. Are we looking at a vaccine which prevents infection, or are we looking at a vaccine which prevents disease? Most vaccines we know will prevent disease. You may have a mild disease, you may get or be asymptomatic, but you will not get severe disease requiring to really go to hospitalization or land up in ICU. But an ideal vaccine would be the one which will prevent infection, disease, and transmission, and that will really help to really bring down the pandemic. Some vaccines there is suggestion even as far as the AstraZeneca vaccine is concerned that it may prevent infection to some extent, but we need more data to say that vaccines prevent infection. They definitely prevent severe disease, and that's why it's important for all of us to really look at vaccination. For India, I think the important thing is that vaccination and not vaccines prevent infection and save lives. And therefore, prioritizing is important. It's important to see that the cold chain is maintained and vaccine hesitancy needs to be addressed. And this is not something which is new. Vaccine hesitancy has been there for hundreds of years. If you look at this painting from 1802, which is an artwork, which was when smallpox vaccine was introduced using cowpox. And there was this fear that since cowpox is being used, anyone who gets vaccinated will have the cow's horn, the cow's heads growing out of their body. And this is what has been depicted as a fear of getting the cowpox vaccine for the eradication of smallpox. If you look at what vaccine hesitancy is all about, there has been concern that among even, this is from the nurses in the US, that vaccine development has occurred too quickly and therefore they're worried about its safety, that information is not available, or that they are not clear about the clinical trial process. And all of this has led to vaccine hesitancy. Also, the information that people get is usually from multi-stream media, TV, radio, newspaper, rather than looking at proper pre-reviewed journals or official government officials or associations. And that also has led to misinformation causing vaccine hesitancy. There's also a concern that people look at the vaccine characteristics to decide about whether to take a vaccine or not. There are concerns about the approval process, too fast or political influence. And of course, the health source of information is also something which is not ideal as far as vaccine is concerned. And that makes people hesitate as far as vaccination is concerned. Data suggests that India is one of the countries where people are ready to get the vaccine. And that's why we really need to work on a strategy to roll it out in a big scale. This paper from the Lancet, which looked at multiple countries, suggested that 91% of persons are ready to get the vaccine from India, much higher than what is available in the Western world. And India is number 2. Number 1 is Vietnam, followed by India and China. And then we have Denmark, South Korea, and Brazil. So India, in terms of the survey, suggests a large number of the general populations actually wanting to get themselves vaccinated. Israel has shown that if you are able to vaccinate a large number of population, you are able to actually decrease your mortality and even decrease new cases significantly 2 weeks following the first dose, as per the health ministry data. Therefore, vaccination does really help in decreasing cases and as far as mortality is concerned. We need to really work on how we can improve vaccine uptake, build trust, provide relevant vaccine education, positive reinforcement, and work out a more robust delivery mechanism so that everyone who wants to be vaccinated can be vaccinated as early as possible. Look at spot registration or looking at short notices. India has worked hard since August to really develop a vaccination strategy. On the 7th of August, the NEGVAC, the National Expert Group for Vaccine Administration, was constituted. It had members from relevant ministries, from state government and technical expert. And all of us sat down and tried to develop strategies as far as this vaccine rollout was concerned. It was very clear that most vaccines have a 2-dose schedule. It was also clear at that point in time that although there would be multiple platforms as far as vaccine is concerned, they are not interchangeable, although research is being done to see whether interchangeable may make the vaccine more effective, and also that the beneficiary must complete vaccination schedule using the same vaccine product. The phase 1 was basically 30 crore population, healthcare workers, frontline worker, and prioritized age groups. More than 50 years of age and less than 50 years of age with associated comorbid condition, and a whole category of healthcare workers, not only doctors, resident, but even ASHA workers, ANMs, the technicians, the sanitation workers, and the other support staff was also included. And this also included medical and dental students. Undergraduate students were also part of the group to be vaccinated. Similarly, there was a whole category of frontline workers, and this list was further added to considering people from the Home Ministry, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and from state government. Various sessions were planned both in terms of healthcare workers, frontline worker, and prioritized groups, and it was felt that this could be expanded further to looking at vaccinations at schools, in community halls, gram panchayat, and even in municipalities. But starting off with the healthcare facilities to get confidence as far as the safety of the vaccine was concerned. And a whole allocation of work was given to various vaccinators or vaccination officers, 4 of them at each site, and they had a work allocation which was done to make sure that there was a smooth flow of vaccination, both for monitoring for the adverse effect and to see that it functions properly. The CoWIN app was created, and this was an upgradation of what was already there as far as the EVIN app was concerned. And this is a comprehensive end-to-end system which could be used for various other vaccination programs across the world. It looks at not only the cold chain maintenance, but also looks at the beneficiary and to see how it can benefit the beneficiary. So this looks at the mobile app, it looks at temperature logger, and looks at the beneficiary. All of this goes onto the CoWIN dashboard, and that's where most of the data is looked at and analyzed. So the CoWIN delivery system which India created looked at initial logistics, the phase 1, which was basically the vaccine coming from the manufacturer all the way up to the primary health center or to the vaccine sites, and making sure that the cold chain was maintained. The second phase was to look at how you could give the vaccine. So there was beneficiary registration, session allocation, and vaccination of the beneficiary. And the phase 3 was the acknowledgement, which was through an SMS, a unique health ID, a QR code, and monitoring for adverse effect following immunization. All of this was done through the CoWIN dashboard. So the CoWIN dashboard had automated session allocation, it had Aadhaar authentication, it created a unique health ID, adverse effect monitoring was also done, it had SMSs in 12 languages, QR code was created, it had a DigiLock system, a 24/7 helpline, and it had a chat box, it had a natural language processing mechanism, dry runs were already done, and a training using the IT platform was also part of the CoWIN platform. The government also initiated communication initiatives to really communicate with the public, and a large number of these activities was done, looking at various groups, individuals or influencers, community groups, and media were all involved in trying to see how we could reach out to the public in terms of the vaccine hesitancy and vaccine eagerness was concerned. Vaccine eagerness was also handled by acknowledging that there might be a degree of vaccine eagerness, but people would have to wait to get vaccine access. Key messages were given to the public, and accurate information was shared. Also, there were the program of handling vaccine hesitancy, which looked at community engagement, identifying traditional known vaccine hesitant and resistant areas, using data to influence people to come forward to take the vaccine, and developing various other means to really promote the vaccination and get over vaccine hesitancy. India has done remarkably well, and if you look at the total doses that have been administered, India is in the top 5 of having done more than 10 million doses, and this number keeps growing every year in terms of actual number of doses. However, if you start looking at the number of doses that India has been able to give per 100 persons, then because of the size of our population, we are not in the top list because of the fact that our population is much larger, and therefore we really need to ramp up our vaccine distribution in a big way, considering the size of our country. AIMS has also been involved. So finally, I'll just wind up by just telling the vaccine drive and giving you an overview of how this is done across the country. We have a vaccination site in our outpatient area, which is for the staff. A flow chart is being created, so how the individual will go from one area to the other. At the point of entry, it is manned by the vaccine officer 1, who verifies your photo ID and then also gives a wristband and a token for a regular flow of the vaccination schedule, because we are having 5 vaccination sites and at times vaccinating more than 500 people a day. Subsequently, the beneficiary sits in the vaccine. The person who has to get the vaccine sits in the screening area, where a consent sheet is given and information is provided by the nursing doctor and resident doctors. Doubts are clarified and necessary information is given. The person data is then entered in the CoWIN portal, which is to establish and is confirmed by the vaccinator. Subsequently, the vaccination is given at that site, and the person is then observed for half an hour in the vaccination room, where the nursing staff is there and a doctor is there to monitor for any adverse effect following immunization. This is our staff which is there posted to look for any adverse effect, and we have one room which is for any severe adverse effect, which is manned by our sisters for any side effect which may happen in terms due to the vaccination. So this is now started, and I'm very confident that over the next few weeks, we will achieve a significant target as far as phase 1 is concerned. Thank you very much.
Dr. Guleria, thank you so much. You know, there were so many questions in everyone's mind. And it's also good to raise the awareness on actually what our country's vaccination strategy is, what is available, and how, you know, your rationale, your planning, has been put together. So thank you so much. It was one of the most amazing presentations I have seen of late. Of course, with good work and great work, there's a lot of interest among the public. There's a lot of interest among our key stakeholders at AIMA. And there have been a lot of questions which have come up. And one of the main questions is, going forward, what are the specific measures you would suggest both to the government, to the private sector healthcare industry, that we're not faced with the kind of public health crisis which we faced in the past 12 months? And do you think something should change both in the private sector, in the public sector, and maybe at AIMS itself? So are there any thoughts which we should be discussing?
Yes, I think there has been a lot of learning as far as the COVID-19 pandemic has been concerned. And I think we should sort of not lose whatever we've learned once the pandemic starts becoming less, and see how there can be better collaboration between the private sector, the public sector, how we can look at what the Prime Minister says is having Atmanirbhar Bharat, because what we realized in the pandemic was that very often you have to do what is available in your own country. We had shortage of PPEs because they were being imported, N95 masks, and even ventilators, because they were not available in our country. And during a pandemic, we had to rely on other countries, and these countries were not providing these ventilators or these equipments. Even diagnostics became a challenge. So we have to become self-reliant in many ways, and we have to put health at the center stage. Health is something that is very important because it affects all areas as far as the economy is concerned, as far as livelihood is concerned. And it is something which should be looked as a sector which can actually generate and push the economy rather than looking at it only as a service sector. So there has to be good collaboration. And I think we should become not only the medical research hub, but even the patient care hub for the world. And I think India has the capacity to do that. For vaccination, there is still a lot that we need to do. And I think there has to be more and more public-private partnership.
That's very encouraging, Dr. Guleria. Again, uppermost in people's minds, and I know that you have a plan to do the healthcare, the frontline workers first, and then open it up to the public. So I think the question keeps coming up. There's a sense of urgency. When will senior citizens, people with comorbid conditions, when will they start, getting the vaccination? How will you allow the private sector to really supplement the government's work? And then is there some kind of a lack of trust in the indigenously developed vaccine? These are the questions which keep coming up again, from our viewers. Could you throw some light on that?
Yes, so I think there is a need now to gradually start opening up once we have everything in place, because vaccinating healthcare workers and frontline workers is probably the easy part as far as the phase 1 is concerned, because you have the list, you know who's to be vaccinated, and the number is not that large. Once you reach the number of trying to vaccinate 27 crore individuals, it's a huge number because you have to give 2 doses of the vaccine. So we must have a robust program in place where you have the list of all those who need to be vaccinated. If they're not on the list, how can they come onto the list? If they are the beneficiaries, they need to get the vaccine. And we need to develop a mechanism where we have the private sector and the public sector actually rolling out the vaccine on a large scale. Also, we have to balance that out with the capacity that is available, like is showed in the slide, because currently we are in a situation where the demand is more than what the capacity is. Once we have a situation where the demand and the capacity match each other, then it's very easy for the vaccine to even be available in the market for that matter. But currently the capacity is less than the demand, and therefore a strategy needs to be developed. But I do agree that there is now an urgency to roll out the vaccine to a large number of people, especially the fact that there is some degree of vaccine hesitancy in healthcare workers and frontline workers, and therefore doses are available and we should use them as much as early as possible. I personally feel that we have a window of opportunity right now because our cases are down, but this can change anytime, as we've seen in various parts of the world, especially with the new variants coming up in different countries. And therefore, we should not lose this moment and try and vaccinate a large number of our own citizens, which will be able to provide some degree of protection as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Remember, we still don't have an effective antiviral drug. So treatment strategy is still not ideal as we would like it to be. So the only weapon that we have actually is the vaccine. Coming to this, the other part that you asked regarding trust as far as the Bharat Biotech vaccine is concerned, I think now there is data also published in Lancet which has shown that there is good amount of neutralizing antibodies and T-cell immunity that the vaccine produces. Safety data is already there. This is a platform which we use for many vaccines, including the influenza vaccine. It's not a new platform. And now more than 25,000 people have been vaccinated, not only in phase 3 trial, but even otherwise, large number of individuals have got the co-vaccine vaccine as part of the rollout plan, and there has been no significant side effects. So side effect is now something that we need not worry about. There is published data as far as efficacy is concerned. One is hopeful that in the next few weeks, we will get the phase 3 data also out and published in a peer-reviewed journal. So I think, like I said, this is just a small window that we have before things may worsen, and therefore we should take whatever vaccine we get and immunize ourselves, have enough neutralizing antibodies so that we are able to decrease mortality and really not have another spike in our country.
I think we have time for just one last question. But going forward, so much of science has come together to produce stuff like this. What role has AI played in dealing with the crisis, developing the vaccine, and maybe for us to do prediction, to predict the onset of disease? How do you look at it going forward?
I think AI is there to really make a big difference as far as the medical sector is concerned. Even during COVID-19, a lot of projects were done which showed how AI could be useful. In our own institute, we had a student, a young faculty who has done her training also in IIT Delhi, develop an AI which was very useful because looking at a chest X-ray, you could really say whether there's a high chance of COVID-19 or not before even your RT-PCR report came. And similarly, AI was used in predicting or using it in base models. AI can also be used when it comes to seeing how one can develop and look at new vaccine platforms. So I think in the future, there will be a lot of use as far as AI is concerned in medicine. In many ways, I feel we doctors have been slow to adopt technology as our counterparts, let's say, in the engineering sector and other sectors. But that is changing rapidly, and the pandemic showed us the importance of telemedicine, teleconsultation, using various devices to really be able to monitor people at home without having to come for a physical checkup. So a lot of things have now sort of moved forward because of COVID-19.
Thank you, Dr. Guleria. I wish we had, more time, but I think in the time which we had, the learning has been enormous, and there's a level of confidence which we have built within our systems. There's either Atmanirbhar or the fact that there is Ayushman Bharat, but the fact is that we are geared up to really treat our countrymen and provide healthcare for the neighboring countries. So I think you covered all this in your session, and there is a level of confidence which I think has been phenomenal. I would love to close the session by again saying thank you so much for the multiple things which you have done for the country and made us proud to be Indians. Thank you, and looking forward to seeing you again soon in the future.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our third session. We will be back for the next session after a very short while. Please stay tuned. Thank you. Kirloskar, immediate past President AIMA and Chairman and Managing Director, Kirloskar Brothers Limited. May I request Mr. Kirloskar to kindly conduct the session.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to have a pioneer of India's tech industry and an iconic philanthropist with us for a chat. He is a recipient of both the Padma Bhushan and the Padma Vibhushan orders, and he has also been decorated with the Chevalier de la Légion d'honneur by the French government. I hope, Mr. Premji, I pronounced that properly. I am very bad at French, having never learned it in school.
So have I, actually.
AIMA has also presented him with the Lifetime Achievement Award in Management today. Mr. Premji, thank you so much for joining us in celebrating AIMA's Foundation Day and for agreeing to talk to us about your journey and mission as an entrepreneur and a philanthropist. Many of your peers and young leaders look up to you and aspire to attain the standards that you have achieved. Your life and career are a fascinating and inspiring story. And though your achievements are well known, I would briefly summarize your story for the benefit of our audience. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Premji was born in 1945, and the same year, his father founded Western India Vegetable Products, the company that went on to become Wipro. Mr. Premji was in college when he lost his father, and he had to leave his education at Stanford midway to take charge of the family business. Though still in his early 20s, Mr. Premji transformed his father's Vanaspati and soap business into a diversified company that made and sold a range of personal, household, and industrial products. Mr. Premji was amongst the first to spot an opportunity in India's nascent IT sector in 1977, when the Janata Party government forced multinationals to transfer ownership to Indians. IBM decided to quit India, and Mr. Premji set up a computer manufacturing business in Wipro. He was once again in his pioneering element in the 1980s, as US companies started outsourcing custom software. Wipro became a leader in exporting IT services from India, and as they say, the rest is history. The growth of the IT industry and the high valuation of tech companies made Mr. Premji one of the richest persons in the world, which led to the next big turn in his life. In 2001, he founded the Azim Premji Foundation to improve education availability and standards in our country, which gives the poor a better chance to increase their earning potential and to become better citizens. He has progressively increased the endowment of the fund by making it the beneficiary of his stockholding in Wipro. And today, the Azim Premji Foundation is one of the best funded foundations in the world. Along with all the pioneering efforts in industry and philanthropy, Mr. Premji has also managed to build an $8.5 billion tech company that does business in 58 countries. Now, he has handed over the charge of his business to his very bright son, Rishad, to focus on his philanthropic work. Mr. Premji, thank you for giving me the privilege to have a conversation with you about your life, career, and thoughts about the current state of affairs and the future. So let me start with my questions. So my first question is...
Thank you for a nice introduction.
Most welcome. My first question to you, Mr. Premji, is what has it been like to retire from active business life?
You know, I don't think of myself as having retired. I don't think that I can ever retire. You know, one has worked so hard for so long, so one has lost the ability to retire, actually. It's just that I've left the role of chairman of Wipro Limited, a 9 billion IT business company. Rishad chairs Wipro Limited, and I'm founder chairman and a board of director in a non-executive role. I am, however, fully engaged with the extensive work of our foundation. Its field work in education, the grant-making work to hundreds of partners, and the universities. Then there is a fairly large, almost 2 billion Wipro Enterprise Limited, the private company which has our consumer business, our infrastructure engineering business, and our joint venture with General Electric Healthcare, which I chair. Then there's also a rupees 2,10,000 crore endowment, which I oversee in the role of a chairman. So I continue to be fully engaged in all of this. I enjoy this. If I was to let this go, then I will try to invent something else to keep myself busy. The only difference now is that perhaps that I have more structured week, a bit more time at my disposal that I enjoy, mostly on weekends to trek.
You remind me so much about my grandfather, who lived to the ripe old age of 91, and he was always curious and wanted to learn more. And I guess your being engaged allows you to continue to be curious and do new things. So the second question is, what has been the inspiration for your philanthropy?
My mother founded the Children's Orthopedic and Spastic Charitable Hospital when I was very young. It was a totally charitable hospital. She ran it with immense struggle for 50 years as chairperson. She had to raise funds, run the operations, deal with the doctors, deal with the workers, deal with the unions, and whatnot. All because she wanted to serve. Nothing fazed her. She was amazing. This is my core inspiration. This is what I saw whilst growing up, and that has really inspired me to look at philanthropy very seriously. And then there was Mahatma Gandhi's idea of trusteeship of wealth, that the wealthy must act as custodians of wealth for the benefit of society and not as owners of wealth. That influenced me a great deal later. So I would say that the intent and fire came from my mother's example, and the international intellectual rationale came from Mahatma Gandhi.
Thank you. You have done extensive work helping improve the government school system. What has been your experience with that?
We only deal with government schools. We are not involved with private schools, primarily because we find our value add is more in government schools. We are very energized by our experience and quite optimistic about what we can achieve. We work with lakhs of government school teachers, and a very large proportion of them are incredibly dedicated and committed, unlike the common belief of the people. The question is whether they get the right kind of support and the right kind of working environment. I've myself been at many workshops and meetings in the field, late on a Saturday night, where these government school teachers come to learn how to teach better. They're investing their own time, spending their own money for commute, and nobody has ordered them to do this. They're doing this of their own self. We also don't appreciate the extraordinary challenging condition that these teachers have to deal with. Very little resources, students from very poor families, where parents cannot provide any support because they themselves are laboring all the time, and many of them are illiterates. I don't think in Wipro we can get people to come for training on a Saturday today. So it just speaks of the contrast between the commitment of these school teachers who have been so badly vilified by society. Working in these teachers in school, we have seen steady improvement. It does require sustained and continuous work, which is why we don't run simple projects and programs, but have set up institutions across 47 of the most disadvantaged districts of the country. In addition to this work on the ground, we also work with state governments on matters of policy and curriculum. All our work is in close collaboration with the state governments. On the whole, we are very satisfied with our work in education and what we have achieved. And a good public education system is the foundation of a good society and a vibrant democracy.
You have also set up a university. So I'd like to understand, why did you set up the university? And is it also true that you'll be setting up 2 more, and why is that?
Actually, our intention is to set up 4 more universities in the next 10 years. We set up the university in Bangalore, when we set up the other university because we need a lot of more higher education programs which can develop a large cadre of young people to work in the social sector. So a lot of our education commitment is towards encouraging our students to finally join the social sector. Be it in education, community development, public health, livelihoods, sustainability, and more. Equally, there's a requirement for relevant research on the key issues facing our society across these different fields of human development. Our universities serve this purpose. We also run an undergraduate program where we try to fire up young people to dedicate their lives to improving society, and along with gaining knowledge on areas like physics, math, history, psychology, and more. So our universities are also set up for the purpose of directly contributing to society. We're happy that most of our students, more than 90% of them over the past 10 years, have gone on to serve society, often at grassroots. 88% of the cost of running the university is borne by our philanthropic foundation.
Okay. Over the past 5 years, you have also started supporting other NGOs. Maybe you did that earlier as well. And that you're doing in a very big way. What is that for?
It is quite clear that while education is absolutely central to human development, there are many other matters that are very important. So we decided that while to build ourselves as an operating organization with expertise and deep presence in the ground, in other fields we would rather support other organizations with financial grants so they could scale up our work and scale up their work and work with them to do their jobs better. We support NGOs that work for the most disadvantaged and marginalized people in our society. This includes the homeless, persons with disability, women survivors of violence, street children, elderly poor, farmers who are very marginal shareholding, and vulnerable tribal groups, and much more such vulnerable people. We also engage in a systematic collaboration with state government and NGOs to address large humanitarian development challenges aside from education on which we work ourselves. This includes reducing child malnutrition, preventing human trafficking, improving gram panchayats and welfare delivery, and shifting to sustainable farming practices. All our work in the field at the university and in our grant making comes together with clarity and simplicity. We want to contribute to developing a more just, equitable, and humane and sustainable society in India, to try and help bring to life the values that the Constitution of India committed to in 1950.
Okay. And changing topics, what has been your experience during the past year of the COVID crisis?
The COVID crisis, as I see it, is a real wake-up call, which we needed to really relook at some of our fundamentals. And the fundamentals are that we have to drastically and dramatically improve our public systems, such as health systems, and also change the structure of society to become more equal and just. The fact is that the pandemic has had a very unequal impact. The disadvantaged have suffered exponentially more. Inequality has widened significantly since the pandemic. It is also true that this period has demonstrated the extraordinary courage and dedication of lakhs of our fellow citizens who have worked in the front line without any respite and without fear for their lives. We ourselves worked across 400 districts with the on-the-ground presence of over 65,000 people, both in delivering basic human necessities like food on matters of healthcare to tackle the pandemic. While the work on humanitarian aid has come down, our work on health continues as it will continue till the pandemic is fully resolved and tackled.
Okay. Again, what is your view on the CSR law, the Corporate Social Responsibility Law?
I do not think we should have a legal mandate for companies to do CSR. Philanthropy or charity or contribution to society must come from within, and it cannot be mandated from outside. But that is my personal view. As of now, this is the law, and all companies must follow it. In this context, all I can add is that individual personal philanthropy is separate and should be separated from a company's CSR. I think that's very important.
In your philanthropic work, what gives you the greatest satisfaction?
When I travel in the field and meet our teams and our partners' teams who have single-mindedly dedicated their lives to helping the country improve, that is about the biggest satisfaction one can derive personally.
And what would your advice be to all of us on philanthropy?
Don't leave it for a later age. I think we started too late. Start right away, even if you start small. Try to help build institutions and support programs. We must have a strong set of civil society institutions which you can contribute to. Your experience in business has eminently qualified you to build scale. This is an integral part of nation building.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Premji. We're really honored that you spent so much time with us. What really touched me was the fact that you gave credit to your mother as the inspiration for your work that you're carrying on to help our society become a better one. And congratulations once again from all of us at AIMA on winning the AIMA Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you.
I'm quite honored by the award. Thank you for awarding it to me and awarding it to the thousands of Wiproites who have really made it possible.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we have come to the end of AIMA 65th Foundation Day and 15th National Management Day. I do hope you all enjoyed all the sessions. We would like to once again thank all our sponsors who have supported us and made it possible for us to organize today's program. We thank our co-sponsors, CavinKare and Usha International, associate sponsors, Thijo Engineering and Bombay Stock Exchange, committee of hosts, Dempo Group of Companies, Pattern and Nico Industries. The AIMA Foundation Day souvenir, which was released virtually today, is available on the AIMA website. We encourage you to go there to have a look or download the same. We look forward to seeing you all again at AIMA's National Leadership Conclave, which is scheduled to be held on 19th and 20th April. With that, thank you once again for joining us today, and we wish you a very pleasant day ahead. Thank you.